Chapter 480. You crazy woman! You have the nerve to say this with such a big belly, Yang Dingtian said angrily. Little man, I'm just here to tell you, not to beg you, Yao Rao said. Then, she flew over with a big belly, grabbed Yang Dingtian's neck, and flew onto the back of the beautiful Ray. Damn, this woman's cultivation had improved. She was now a 6-star grandmaster. After being pregnant, she had been looking for all kinds of treasures for the baby every day. She had almost never practiced martial arts. However, she was a fox demon, and her cultivation increased just by breathing. Just like that, the dignified Cloud Sky City Lord, the leader of justice in the world, was grabbed by the neck and carried away. Yang Dingtian wanted to struggle, but he couldn't. The other party's cultivation was much higher than his. Moreover, the other party was pregnant. Yang Dingtian was afraid that if he struggled, it would hurt the baby in his belly. Then, he was snatched by Yao Rao in a cowardly manner. She got on the floating ray and flew away. Hey, crazy fox demon, where are you going? Yang Dingtian asked. The fox demon kissed Yang Dingtian's lips and said, to the north, on the highest mountain. The scenery there is the best. Hey, fox demon, don't mess around. Be careful of the baby in your belly, Yang Dingtian said desperately. Yao Rao said in a trembling voice, Don't worry, we fox demons are not as delicate as you humans. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's line of defense completely collapsed. 3 hours later, Yang Dingtian only had 4 hours of free time, and he had spent 1.5 hours. At this time, the fox demon closed her beautiful eyes and stroked her belly lovingly, feeling the little life inside. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but reach out and stroke her belly, feeling the little life inside. Pa! The fox demon slapped Yang Dingtian's hand in disgust, and then took it away. Okay, I'm satisfied. You can go, Yao Rao said straightforwardly. Yang Dingtian was speechless. He had become the vixen's tool. Yo! Did I accidentally hurt some little man's self-esteem? Yao Rao chuckled. Afterward, she turned her delicate body around gracefully and kissed Yang Dingtian's lips. All right. I love you. Is that all right? You can leave now. Can you be any more perfunctory? Yang Dingtian smiled bitterly, even though he and this vixen were just making use of each other. However, after she became pregnant with his child, it was difficult for Yang Dingtian to be completely heartless. He was not like this vixen who had lived for almost 1,000 years. The alluring beauty rolled her eyes and stuck out her little tongue. She kissed him all the way and said, If you don't leave now, you won't be able to leave. Yang Dingtian shuddered violently. He quickly stood up and flew in the direction of Cloud Heaven City, not daring to stay for even a moment. As he flew towards Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian made up his mind. Cherish your life and stay away from the 1,000-year-old vixen in the main hall of Cloud Heaven City. If things go as expected, we will be able to see the shadow of the evil Dao army in 4 days. In 5 days, this army of several 100,000 will arrive and surround our Cloud Sky City so tightly that not even a drop of water can pass through. Yang Dingtian said, In these 3 days, there were 3 battles. The results were brilliant, but we also discovered some problems. The most important problem is, why did the Devil Dragon Army and the Demon Wolf Army suffer such a huge loss? Because the Demon Wolf Army's explosive power is stronger than the Devil Dragon Army's. The Demon Wolf Army's body is thicker and more bloodthirsty. The first commander of the Devil Dragon Army said, However, I believe that no matter how strong the Demon Wolf Army is, the final victory will be ours. I also believe this. Yang Dingtian said, However, I don't want to see such casualties again. Even though our Devil Dragon Army has received reinforcements, Lu Hengxi has led 1,500 Devil Dragon warriors to join us. Even though the sacrifice is great, I still can't accept such a huge loss. We killed 2 Demon Wolf Knights and 1 Devil Dragon warrior. I can't accept this ratio. No one on the scene could accept this ratio. In other words, the Demon Wolves and Demon Knights were all wild beasts. As for the Devil Dragon warriors, they were all knights of flesh and blood. They were noble and honorable knights. Using one honorable knight to exchange for 2 wild beasts was not a good deal. Yang Dingtian continued asking, "Also, let me ask you, in the upcoming battle, how many demon wolf army will the evil ways send?" The first commander said, "Sect Master, as long as they don't exceed 10,000, we can win. If the demon wolf army exceeds 10,000, you can still win, but the price is almost total annihilation." Yang Dingtian said, "I can't accept this result. Furthermore, I suspect that the number of the Demon Wolf Legion might exceed 10,000. Even in the East Parting Grassland, the elite Demon Wolf Legion wouldn't exceed 20 to 30,000. It is probably impossible to send all of them to the Cloud Heaven City battlefield. However, we still have to be mentally prepared. If the enemy's Demon Wolf army exceeds 10,000, what should we do?" Suddenly, everyone fell into silence. If the Demon Wolf army exceeded 10,000, then the 3,500 Devil Dragon army would not be able to win. Cloud Heaven City's secret weapon was not very useful against the extremely fast Demon Wolf army. Moreover, the tall city walls were unable to stop the Demon Wolf army. The Devil Dragon army could climb the city walls like it was flat ground, and the Demon Wolves could do the same. Even if only 1,000 demon wolves charged into the city, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although Yang Dingtian had many experts, once 1,000 demon wolves charged in, Yang Dingtian's experts would not be enough to save them. They could only be slaughtered by the demon wolf army. After all, these beasts were too fast. For example, once the Devil Dragon army charged into the enemy's formation, even if Qin Chi had master-level experts, she would not be able to stop the slaughter of a few thousand demon dragons. In the upcoming battle, the Devil Dragon army will face the greatest pressure. You will have to fight the most. Yang Dingtian said, "I don't want to see you all annihilated when we win. In the battle 2 days ago, you were always on the front line. Then let me ask you, is there any way to reduce the casualties?" After the 3 commanders of the Devil Dragon army thought about it, they could not help but shake their heads. "Anyway, any price," Yang Dingtian said. The 3 commanders were shocked. Then, the first commander said, "Sect Master, I have an idea. However, the price is too high. It is even higher than the cost of our Devil Dragon army." "Don't say such ridiculous things. Tell me what method you have," Yang Dingtian said. The first commander said, "Our Devil Dragon Legion's weapons, shields, armor, and even the armor on our Devil Dragon mounts are all made of the best Black Devil steel. This is the pinnacle of the Devil Dragon Legion. However, if our weapons, shields, armors, and even the armor of our Demon Dragon mounts are all made of bloody black gold, then our killing power will increase exponentially." As soon as these words came out, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The first commander continued, "My lords, in the battle 2 days ago, it looked extremely tragic. In fact, 60% of our Devil Dragon army's casualties were at the moment of impact with the Demon Wolf army. The explosive power of the Demon Wolf army was too strong. As long as we are equipped with bloody black gold, I guarantee that we can win even if there are 15,000 demon wolves, let alone 10,000. Once these words were said, everyone went silent again. They all gasped. What did the first commander's words mean? It meant that they could create 3,500 bloody black gold swords, 3,500 sets of bloody black gold armor, and 3,500 armor. This method was very direct. Anyone could think of it. Once equipped, the Devil Dragon army could directly crush the Demon Wolf army. However, was it possible? Absolutely impossible. Not to mention Cloud Sky City, even the Northwest Qin City, or even the entire world's forces, would not be able to create such an astronomical amount of bloody black gold equipment. How many bloody black gold swords were there in the world? At most, there would only be a few hundred. At this moment, it was no longer a problem of money. It was a problem of bloody black gold reserves. Even if all the bloody black gold in the world were gathered, there would only be a few thousand bloody black gold swords. Therefore, the first commander's suggestion was purely theoretical. He knew that it was impossible. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and said, Ali, how many pieces of bloody black gold do we have in totals? Qin Mingli said, My husband, I have transported 70% of the bloody black gold from the West Prefecture City's auction to Cloud Sky City. There are about 29,000 pieces. Once this number was out, everyone was stunned. This number was undoubtedly an astronomical figure. Even Qin Huaiyu had never seen so much bloody black gold in such a short period of time. Qin Mingli was really ruthless in poaching the northwest Qin city. Even if Cloud Sky City multiplied their assets by 10 times, they would probably not be able to afford so much bloody black gold. However, one should not be fooled by this number. If they were to use it to forge treasured swords, even supreme-grade treasured swords, there would only be enough for 300 of them. Qin Mingli's auction was the biggest business empire in the Tiando League. This amount of bloody black gold had been accumulated over several decades. It was also thanks to Qin Wancho's magnanimity that he could turn a blind eye to such a huge amount of wealth and allow Qin Mingli to transport it over. Yang Dingtian said, All of you also know that the sole sword in my hand was forged with 999 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. Absolute bloody black gold content. A 10,000-year-old bloody black gold was equivalent to 10 times more than ordinary bloody black gold. After forging this soul sword, I still have about 2,000 kilograms of bloody black gold powder left. Most of this powder was used to forge 10 treasured swords. I have distributed it to the few of you here. There are about 5 swords left and a few hundred kilograms of bloody black gold powder left. Then, Yang Dingtian suddenly slammed the table and said loudly, We will do this. We will change all our brothers in the Devil Dragon Army into bloody black gold weapons and bloody black gold armor. Once these words were spoken, everyone in the Grand Hall was shocked. The few commanders in the Devil Dragon Army were almost deaf, and their ears were ringing. How? How is this possible? How? How big was the price to pay? Just like what the first commander of the Devil Dragon Army said, the total value of all this bloody black gold could surpass 3,500 Devil Dragon warriors. Now, in order to reduce the casualties, Yang Dingtian actually wanted to use up an astronomical amount of bloody black gold. Such a crazy and big spending, not to mention Song Xiao. Even Qin Wancho couldn't do it. Song Chunhua felt her body heat up. After a while, she said, But all of this added together is still not enough. At most, we can only forge a few hundred swords. Yang Dingtian said, You all have a misconception. You think that treasured swords and armors must all be forged with bloody black gold. This is impossible. Not to mention that we don't have enough bloody black gold. We also don't have enough time to forge so many weapons and armors. We are changing the bloody black gold for the Devil Dragon Army, not to increase their xianqi, but to make them stronger and sharper. Therefore, we only need to add a layer of bloody black gold on the surface of their weapons, armors, and armor. Once these words were spoken, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, the black magic steel was already tough enough. As long as a layer of bloody black gold was added to the sword, and the blade of the sword was made of bloody black gold, this sword would instantly become incomparably sharp and tough. It could easily tear apart the armors of the Demon Wolf army. As for the armors, it was even simpler. They just needed to apply the layer of bloody black gold. Yang Dingtian said, Among us, 4 have Xian flames, and 2 have heaven and earth Xian flames. Use the Xian flames to melt the bloody black gold, and then use the Xian flames to bombard it. This is the fastest and strongest forging method. It can guarantee that the bloody black gold will completely merge with the weapons and armors, forming an indestructible whole. Yes. Instantly, Qin Huaiyu and Zhu Hongxue couldn't help but say excitedly, This way, we will have enough bloody black gold. Yang Dingtian said, Commanders, go and prepare immediately. Change the equipment 1 regiment at a time. Yes. The 4 Devil Dragon Army commanders said excitedly. Almost everyone was so excited that their bodies were trembling. 3,500 Devil Dragon Army equipped with bloody black gold weapons and armors. They didn't even dare to imagine how powerful they would be. Go and do it now. Yang Dingtian said, First Regiment, Second Regiment, take off all your equipment. After the meeting, we will immediately enter the transformation state. Yes. The 4 commanders excitedly left the hall. Yang Dingtian said to Qin Huayu, I estimate that we will still have some bloody black gold left. Go to the Great Cloud Sky Mountain and find Kuei Ning. Ask them to gather all our brothers' weapons. We will transform them together. Qin Huayu's eyes instantly lit up. The Demon Eagle army was already so heaven-defying. Now, they were all equipped with bloody black gold. Then how powerful would their combat strength be? Furthermore, the Demon Eagle Legion was an alliance army and not his own army. Yang Dingtian was actually so generous and magnanimous. Yes, Qin Huayu shouted. Yang Dingtian looked at Shimin Lai and said, Big brother, how many of our secret weapons have we prepared? 2,000 and 300,000. Shimin Lai said. So many? Yang Dingtian said in disbelief. Yes, we have enough manpower. In addition, Madame Qin Mingli has brought us an almost endless supply of materials. In addition, we are using the mystic flames of the young masters. The progress is extremely fast. Shimin Lai said, In fact, if not for the fact that we already have enough, we could have made more. Enough, definitely enough. Yang Dingtian said, What about the power? How is it compared to when I left? It has increased by more than 10 times. Shimin Lai said, Madame Qin Mingli brought dozens of alchemists and did a few thousand experiments. 2 months ago, the formula was confirmed. The power is at least 10 times stronger than when you left. Good. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but look at Qin Mingli. Her contribution was really too great. She had provided an astronomical amount of materials and treasures for Cloud Sky City. Remember to keep it a secret. Don't reveal the secret weapons. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Yang Dingtian said. Shimin Lai said, Please don't worry. One of the materials doesn't exist in this world. Everything was created according to your secret method. The creation of this material was done by my brothers who were brought here by me personally. And these brothers will never leave a certain place. Then, Shimin Lai said, The dozens of alchemists brought by Madame Qin Mingli only added various crystals and energy liquids to our finished products for experiments. They don't know anything about the secret of our finished products. That's good. Yang Dingtian said. Then, Yang Dingtian stood up and said, There are at most 5 more days before the final battle. We have already prepared everything that needs to be prepared. Then, in these 5 days, we will make the final improvements to all the war deployments. Then, we will quietly wait for the arrival of the final battle. Yes. Everyone shouted in unison. Chapter 481. In the next few days, Yang Dingtian and the others only had one thing to do. That was, the mystic fire melted the bloody black gold, the mystic fire refined the bloody black gold, and the mystic fire bombarded the bloody black gold. For people. 2 heaven and earth mystic fires. 2 earth mystic fires. A total of 29,000 pieces of bloody black gold were melted. According to their mystic fire level, they could refine to 1% of the purity. But considering that this was not to make a top-notch mystic chi sword, but a standard weapon, so refining to 1/10 should be enough. 29,000 pieces of bloody black gold were refined to 1/10, and there were still more than 50,000 pounds left. Then, Yang Dingtian melted 200 pounds of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold powder and put it into the 50,000 pounds of bloody black gold molten iron. Not only that, Yang Dingtian also melted a 2,000-year-old demon spirit's claw and put it into the bloody black gold molten iron. Suddenly, a strange reaction occurred. This bloody black gold molten iron began to flow with a terrifying aura. This aura, even if just getting close, had a kind of piercing energy. Of course, putting the demon spirit's claw in it was told to Yang Dingtian by Yaorao, who returned to Cloud Sky City after enjoying it. The demon spirit's claw was actually a soul-enhancing agent forged from any sword. Even if it was only a little bit, it would have an amazing effect. Now, Yang Dingtian had already felt it. That kind of oppressive, cold aura. More than 50,000 pounds of high-purity bloody black gold mixed with molten iron cooled slightly and placed in a special cold jade groove. Yang Dingtian and the others looked at each other and nodded. Then, they waved their palms. Suddenly, 100 demon dragon warriors' swords floated in the air. Each sword weighed 100 kilograms and was more than a meter long. This sword was originally incomparably sharp and fierce, and it made people shudder with fear just looking at it. Whoosh! Four mystic fires suddenly emerged. In an instant, these 100 swords were burned red, but they had not melted yet. Then, the four of them quickly cut a piece of bloody black gold from the big groove and burned it to the extreme with the mystic fire. In an instant, the bloody black gold turned into a red liquid. The mystic fire suddenly expanded. Instantly, the bloody black gold turned into countless powdery liquids and turned into bloody black gold mist. Then, the four of them used their mystic chi to bombard these swords with the blood-black golden mist, which was mixed with mystic fire.
Bang!
A loud sound rang out. Ferocious flames suddenly spurted out. These 100 swords suddenly trembled violently. The bloody black gold that had been reduced to powder was actually blasted into the sword. That's right, inside. After hearing about Yang Dingtian's plan, she mercilessly said that he was stupid. Smearing it on the surface of a weapon was indeed powerful. However, when it seeped into the weapon, it was much more effective. It could almost reconstruct the weapon's bones and soul. As a result, the workload of Yang Dingtian and the others increased. Each weapon had to be fired hundreds of times. He wanted the bloody black gold particles to permeate every inch of the weapon. Then, the outermost layer was completely forged with bloody black gold alloy.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yang Dingtian and the other three's mystic fire bombarded the weapons desperately. Fortunately, this kind of bombardment didn't require much mystic chi. Otherwise, even if the four of them were masters, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Now Yang Dingtian knew that Yao Rao also had a heaven and earth mystic fire. She got it hundreds of years ago. She could also participate in the weapon remodeling. But before Yang Dingtian could say anything, she had already rejected it. Of course, it wasn't because it would affect the baby. It was because she felt that this kind of work was silly and tiring. As a peerless beauty, Yao Rao didn't want to do this kind of rough work. Of course, this kind of rough work could only be done by Yang Dingtian and the others.
Boom, boom, boom.
Countless loud sounds and countless bombardments. Finally, the 100 bombardments were completed. Yang Dingtian and the others stopped the mystic fire. The swords fell directly into the unfreezing water and cooled down instantly. Song Chunhua couldn't wait to step forward and pick up a sword. How is this possible? Song Chunhua exclaimed. Yang Dingtian and the other three went forward and couldn't help but be shocked speechless. This remodeling was too thorough. This looked completely like the bloody black gold sword. And unlike the bloody black gold sword, this sword was not only red, but also faintly permeated with a demonic black-blue color. Holding the sword in his hand, the first thing he felt was a murderous aura. That's right, it was a murderous and domineering aura. Yang Dingtian had felt this kind of aura from Mo Ling before. That kind of completely cold and murderous aura. Not to mention killing, the murderous aura of this kind of sword was enough to make the opponent tremble in fear. How sharp is it? Qin Huayu asked. Song Chunhua took a primitive black demon steel sword from the Devil Dragon army. This primitive black sword was already incomparably sharp and could cut through iron like mud. Song Chunhua raised the black demon steel sword and slashed at the remodeled sword.
Clang!
The sound was crisp and decisive. The primitive black sword was directly broken into two. It was used to slash at the remodeled sword, but it broke into two pieces. And the remodeled sword's sharp blade was not damaged at all. And the broken part of the black sword was as smooth as a mirror. This meant that it had been cut off while it was still alive and not broken off. Song Chunhua sucked in a breath of cold air and said, A true bloody black gold sword is only SOSO. After adding the 10,000-year-old bloody black gold powder and Emoling's claw, is it really that strong? Qin Huayu said, how is the Xian Qi bonus? Song Chunhua suddenly injected Xian Qi. 38%. Song Chunhua said. Suddenly, everyone was in disbelief. 38%. The treasured swords that were dug out from the primordial world were only slightly more than 30%. A pure bloody black gold sword could only increase one's Xian Qi by 50%. This remodeled sword actually increased the Xian Qi by 38%. After a long while, Qin Huayu said, I can't imagine how powerful the Devil Dragon army will be after completely remodeled. Yang Dingtian also said excitedly, we will be able to see it soon. Next, the four of them worked day and night crazily remodeling weapons, armors, and the armor of the Devil Dragon mounts. They did not sleep or rest, day or night. When their Xian Qi was exhausted, they would immediately absorb Xian Qi and use the shortest amount of time to recover their Xian Qi before using the Xian fire again. Time passed day by day, the third day. Suddenly, Jiao Liao entered the incomparably hot refining room. City Lord, the Western Army has begun to cross the border, Jiao Liao said. Yang Dingtian was startled and said, what's going on? What happened in the northwest Qin City? Jiao Liao looked at Qin Huayu and said, Qin City Lord Qin Wanzhou, 2 sons and 3 daughters died an unnatural death. 13 cities in Qin City's territory are experiencing a plague. 130,000 people have already died, and it is still spreading. Qin Huayu suddenly shook and looked at Jiao Liao in disbelief. He said with a trembling voice, who died? Jiao Liao said, 4th son, 6th son, and 2nd daughter, 5th daughter, and 6th daughter. Qin Huayu's body trembled, and tears fell. He was not considered a good person previously, but he was definitely a good brother. His father had many children, but there were very few sons and daughters of the first wife. Most of them were born of concubines, but adding them together, there were only 11 of them. Now, he had lost half of them. Qin Jiaojiao was not sensible at all, but Qin Huayu had always doted on her. It was the same for his other brothers and sisters. No matter if they were of the direct line or the concubine line, he was very concerned about them. Even towards Qin Xiaobai, this younger brother with ulterior motives, he was more tolerant. Now, he actually lost 3 younger sisters and 2 younger brothers. It was a bone-piercing pain. Yang Dingtian was also speechless for a long time. This is the evil Tao, unscrupulous and unscrupulous. Yang Dingtian spoke unhurriedly. After Yang Dingtian destroyed the suspension bridge, Qin Wanzhou naturally delayed the army from advancing east. If Qin Wanzhou did not advance east, Qiu Wanjie would not advance west. In this way, the Southern Legion became a lone army. Most importantly, Ning Wuming and Qin Qiqi could not create the scene of the world besieging Yang Dingtian. Therefore, Qiu Ruhan immediately returned to the northwest Qin city. Yi Wuqing immediately went south to report to Ning Wuming and Qin Qiqi. Then, Qin Wanzhou's 2 sons and 3 daughters died an unnatural death. A plague broke out thousands of miles away from the northwest Qin city. In a short 2 to 3 days, hundreds of thousands of people died. This was the warning of evil ways. You, Qin Wanzhou, cannot not advance east. Otherwise, you will face even greater consequences. Qin Wanzhou naturally could not bear such a huge price. Therefore, after delaying for 3 days, he ordered the army to advance east. Did they ride the winged cavalry to cross the border? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes. Jiao Liao said, 3,000 winged cavalry warriors, transporting about 5,000 people each time. We have 1,000 soldiers of the Devil Dragon army there. Should we attack the Western Legion that crossed the border? Yang Dingtian slowly shook his head and said, no need. Order the 3rd Legion of the Devil Dragon army to retreat to Cloud Sky City. Retreat? Let them cross the border? Jiao Liao said in shock. Yes. Yang Dingtian said, retreat to Cloud Sky City, and let them cross the border. But, Jiao Liao said, you exhausted all your energy just to stop them from crossing the border? To stop the situation of millions of soldiers surrounding the city. I'm not stopping them from crossing the border, but delaying them, Yang Dingtian said. Currently, we have already delayed for 3 days. It should be enough. Of course, in this way, we will be pressed for time on the day of the final battle. We have to completely destroy the Evil Way's army in the shortest amount of time. Everyone present understood what Yang Dingtian meant. Let the Eastern and Western legions delay the encirclement of Cloud Sky City. By the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, only the Southern Legion would reach Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian needed to completely destroy the Southern Legion before the Eastern and Western legions arrived. In this way, the Eastern and Western legions would watch from the sidelines. They might even change sides and not join the attack on Cloud Sky City. Even though Qin Wanqiu didn't send any information to Yang Dingtian, neither did Qiu Wanjie. It was as if he didn't know that his son was in Cloud Sky City. However, Yang Dingtian believed that he had a tacit understanding with these two heroes. As long as Yang Dingtian destroyed the 500,000 soldiers of the Evil Ways before the two legions arrived, Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie would immediately change sides. The Battle of the Western World would be set. Of course, for this tacit understanding, Qin Wanqiu lost 2 sons, 3 daughters, and hundreds of thousands of citizens. Sect Master, what if the enemy's Southern Legion doesn't attack on the 15th day? Song Chunhua said, what if Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi wait until they meet up with the Eastern and Western legions before attacking Cloud Sky City?
What should we do then?
I don't think so. Yang Dingtian said, during the Tiando League conference, it was decided that we will attack Cloud Sky City on the 15th day.
It won't change.
I believe in Li Ming's pride. Are you absolutely sure? Zhu Hongxue said, what if the Evil Way's army doesn't start the final battle on the 15th and insists on meeting up with the Eastern and Western legions? I'm not absolutely sure. Yang Dingtian said, however, there's no such thing as an absolutely certain war. A 60% chance is already worth risking everything. Then, Yang Dingtian said to Zhao Liao, go and pass down the order. Get the 3rd group of the Devil Dragon Legion to rush back and change their equipment. Also, pay attention to the Eastern Legion's Sky Thunder City. Pay special attention to the Southern Legion's Sunset Mountain Range. If there's any movement, report it immediately. Yes, Zhao Liao said, and immediately left. Yang Dingtian walked in front of Qin Huayu and patted him on the shoulder. My condolences. Qin Huayu nodded. All right, time is of the essence. Let's continue, Yang Dingtian said.
Yes.
Then, the 4 of them continued to bombard with the mystic fire and modify the weapons and armors. However, in everyone's hearts, there was a flame of fury, a fury that was suppressed, yet soaring to the heavens. Yang Dingtian didn't expect that in this war, the first great sacrifice wasn't Cloud Sky City, but Northwest Qin City. Qin Wanqiu had truly suffered a bone-piercing pain. 4 hours later, Zhao Liao came to report again. The 3rd group of the Devil Dragon Legion has already started to retreat. The Southern Legion of the Evil Way's army in the Sunset Mountain Range has already left the mountain and is heading north. They are still 480 li away from Cloud Sky City. In the direction of the Eastern Legion, Sky Thunder City's tunnel is undergoing the final cleanup. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be cleared by tomorrow night. At that time, the 300,000 soldiers of the Eastern Legion and the 500,000 soldiers of the Central Province Expeditionary Force will all be deployed. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, yes, understood.
Pass down the order.
Tell all the troops to stop training and rest, except for the necessary patrols and defenses. Zhao Liao was stunned, and then nodded. Yes. Yang Dingtian continued to order. Tell all the members of Cloud Sky City and the War Committee to rest except for the necessary shifts.
Yes.
Zhao Liao said. Yang Dingtian finally ordered, order all the scouts to retreat. Except for a few aerial observers, all the troops are to retreat into Cloud Sky City. Zhao Liao was shocked. Even the scouts are to retreat? Then, Then what about the enemy's movements? Their movements won't change. Yang Dingtian said, in 3 days, the army of the evil ways will arrive at the city and the final battle will begin. In 4 days, the million soldiers of the Eastern and Western legions will arrive. The situation won't change. We just have to wait for the battle to begin.
Yes.
Zhao Yao said, and then retreated. Yang Dingtian said to Qin Huaiyu and the others, let's continue and try to finish modifying all the weapons within 2 days. There is only 1 day left. Everyone should rest well and wait for the final battle. Yes. The few of them shouted in unison. 2 hours later, the Devil Dragon Legion's 3rd Regiment rushed into Cloud Sky City like black lightning. 4 hours later, in the huge construction site outside Cloud Sky City, the hundreds of thousands of people had all disappeared. They had all retreated back into the city. 6 hours later, the tens of thousands of people who were doing the final reinforcement of the city walls all went down the city walls and entered the fortress. 8 hours later, all the patrolling cavalry, scouts, and aerial cavalry outside Cloud Sky City all retreated back into the city. Instantly, the bustling city outside Cloud Sky City, which was bustling with activity day and night, was completely silent. There was not a single soul in sight. There were only a few sentries on Cloud Sky City's city walls. Even within Cloud Sky City, it was silent. The final battle that they had been waiting for and preparing for so long was about to begin. After being afraid and worried about something for a few months, one's nerves should have become coarse and numb from fear. Countless citizens who had been tired for a few months began to bathe, change their clothes, and cook. They could finally have a good meal, sleep well, and spend a few days with their families. All the soldiers stopped their training in the fortress and the barracks. They either wrestled, polished their weapons, or played various games. Of course, if they couldn't stay idle, they could fight and kill each other. In short, the incomparably noisy Cloud Sky City suddenly quieted down at the same time. In the southern Sunset Mountain Range. The entire Sunset Mountain Range was thousands of miles long. The mountains were high and rugged, and there were only 1 or 2 places that people could pass through. In the middle of the mountain range, there was a valley that was relatively flat. Therefore, it was almost the only place where an army could pass through. The entire valley was less than 3 miles long. Originally, the valley was filled with huge trees and a river. At this moment, the dense forest was gone, and the entire river had disappeared. The undulating terrain of the entire valley was completely flattened by countless mountains. All the wild beasts and birds had fled. Here, the sound of drums shook the heavens, the earth shook, and the birds flew away in fright. Countless troops were like a tide that stretched for dozens of miles as they passed through the narrow valley. Vast and mighty, covering the sky and the earth. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 500,000 troops passed through the valley and headed north to Cloud Sky City. 1 day later, at night, the destroyed tunnel in Sky Thunder City was completely reopened and forcibly widened by 3 times, reaching a width of 200 meters. The Eastern Army and the Zhongzhou Expeditionary Army were like a tide as they passed through the tunnel from the east and entered Cloud Sky City in the west. The Divine Weapons Villa and its affiliated forces had 300,000 troops, and the Zhongzhou Expeditionary Army had 350,000 troops. Another night passed. In the wee hours of the morning, 3,000 flying mounts continuously transported soldiers and mounts to and fro at the border abyss day and night. A full 2 days and 2 nights. The 450,000 troops of the Western Army all crossed the border. After a short rest and reorganization, they entered Cloud Sky City in the east. They were 800 miles away from Cloud Sky City. The 450,000 troops marched toward Cloud Sky City in a mighty manner. The next day, August 14th, Yang Dingtian and the other 3 used Mystic Fire to bombard the Demon Dragon Army day and night. They completely modified all the swords, armor, and armor of the Demon Dragon Army. They completely modified the 1,000 weapons of the Demon Vulture Army. Then, Yang Dingtian returned to the valley and reunited with Bao Bao, his wife, and his family for an entire day. Qin Huayu went to find Song Lihua and played Go for an entire day. Song Chunhua didn't know where to go. She couldn't be a third wheel at Song Lihua's place, and she couldn't be a third wheel at Yang Dingtian's place either. Therefore, she ran to the old troops of the Demon Dragon Army to practice martial arts. Zhu Hongxue really had nowhere to go. He walked back and forth on the city wall that was more than 100 miles long for no reason. He was deeply attached to this city wall. He was the one who had used his Xian flame to blast it apart inch by inch. He had blasted it hard. When it was mealtime, the soldiers on the city wall would send food up. One of the soldiers shouted, "Let's eat together." Then he walked over and squatted in the middle of the soldiers. He took some food from their bowls and ate with them. After eating, he continued to walk back and forth on the city wall. Late at night, 3,000 troops of the Demon Dragon Army were dispatched to Cloud Sky City's incomparably huge underground fortress. They transported the astronomical number of secret weapons to the city wall and installed them. Then, they returned to the army camp and continued to sleep. Of course, this might be their last sleep. 15th of August. Yang Dingtian was still sleeping on the bed. This time, there was one more person. Qin Mingli finally joined in, ignoring Qin Jiaojiao's extremely unpleasant look. Then, it became 3 people bullying Qin Jiaojiao. This girl was bullied and cried again. Yan Yan couldn't bear it and teamed up with her to bully Qin Mingli. However, even if the 2 little girls worked together, they were still not a match for Qin Mingli, this vixen. Qin Jiaojiao cried again, and cried even harder. Yan Yan didn't cry, but after being bullied by Qin Mingli, she didn't dare to provoke her anymore. Later on, Qin Mingli felt that this wasn't good for the team's unity, so she turned to please her 2 younger sisters. However, she had no bottom line. Even if she wanted to please them, the way she did it wasn't something the 2 girls could accept. So, under her pleasing, Yan Yan and Qin Jiaojiao cried together. Then, Qin Mingli finally cried too. Yang Dingtian was sleeping soundly. Of course, everyone else was awake. Although he was the highest leader after making strategic decisions, he was basically the most useless person. All the matters were handled by the other members of the committee. He basically had nothing to do, so he could sleep in today. Boom, 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 boom. In the distance, deafening drum sounds could be heard. It was the human skin drum. The sound was different from others. It wasn't deafening. Instead, it drilled into one's heart, injecting the aura of death and fear into one's brain and heart. It's here. It's finally here. Yang Dingtian got up. That's right, this day had finally arrived. The day of the final battle had finally arrived. After waiting for so long and preparing for so long, this day had finally arrived. Chapter 482. Boom, boom, boom. Outside, the huge drums of the Evil Way's army could be heard. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Evil Ways had arrived at the city. They were releasing an aura of fear and death toward Cloud Sky City. It was as if the entire Cloud Sky City had begun to tremble. Yang Dingtian got up from the bed. Outside, Mu Lianyi had already prepared the hot water. However, her expression was a little unnatural. Other than facing Yang Dingtian's body, she was also a little frightened by the sound of the drums. However, when she saw Yang Dingtian walk over so casually, she couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. She secretly cursed and blushed even more. Yang Dingtian stepped into the bath and started bathing with Mu Lianyi's help. It was strange. Mu Lianyi was originally filled with fear of the drums outside, but when she saw Yang Dingtian's leisurely manner, she gradually calmed down. Although you're the master, and I'm a servant, I'm still a human. Mu Lianyi's hands rubbed Yang Dingtian's body. You're shameless, but I'm not. Stop acting like a pervert in front of me.
Okay.
Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and leaned comfortably on the bathtub. Mu Lianyi was even angrier. She pinched him and said, "Is this how a city lord should act? The enemy is already at the city gates." Instead of joining the army, You're lazily bathing here? Are you scared? Yang Dingtian asked. Who's scared? At most, I'll just die, Mu Lianyi said. Anyway, I'd rather die than live like this. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but laugh. From your tone, it sounds like you've been bullied, and living is worse than death. What are you laughing at? I'm serious, Mu Lianyi said. In the Mu clan docks, I'm a rich young lady. Here, I'm a servant. In the Mu clan docks, I'm with my father every day. Here, I can't even see him for half a month. In the Mu clan's docks, he lived happily every day, but here, he lived in fear every day. That's fine, but my dignity are being trampled on. Hearing Mu Lianyi's accusation, Yang Dingtian definitely wouldn't refute. In fact, she was the one who had asked to be a maid. Yang Dingtian had originally wanted her to focus on cultivation. Her body and talent were both very good. At this moment, a woman sneakily ran out of the house. It was Qin Mengli. She ran along the wall and ran back to her room naked. Because Jiao Jiao and Yan Yan had secretly thrown her clothes into the water, leaving nothing behind. The small building she lived in was a few dozen meters away. Other than Bao Bao, there was no other man in the entire valley. However, there were quite a number of women. Yan Yan and Jiao Jiao had decided to embarrass Qin Mengli once. Qin Mengli stuck close to the wall and ran back. When she went out, she rolled her eyes at Yang Dingtian. Not long after she ran out, Yang Dingtian heard Bao Bao gurgling, "Mimi, Mimi." Instantly, Qin Mengli was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. Usually, Bao Bao would wake up very late. Today, the sound of the huge human skin drum from the army of evil ways woke Bao Bao up. Bao Bao was so excited that he couldn't sleep anymore. He asked Dugu Aoshuang to get up and wandered outside. In the end, he met Aunt Qin Mengli. Father and son. Neither of them is good, Qin Mengli said angrily. Then, she remembered that there was no man here at all. She didn't need to cover her vital parts. She just needed to cover her face. Therefore, she chose to cover her face and ran back to her small building. Then a little girl's voice almost made her cry. "Mommy, Mommy, come and see. There's a naked auntie running outside." It was little Mingning. She stood at the window and shouted excitedly. Ningro came up with a red face and carried the little girl away. "Shimin Yan Yan, Qin Jiao Jiao, the two of you wait for me." Qin Mengli rushed into her small house and shouted loudly. Originally, she thought that the sky wasn't bright yet and there wouldn't be anyone outside. Who knew that the sky wasn't bright today and everyone would be up? However, this way, the fear in the entire valley seemed to have been dispersed by something. Shameless adulterous couple. Mu Lianyi took the opportunity to pinch Yang Dingtian's back. Yang Dingtian was wearing the city lord's golden robe and a golden crown. He rode the demon eagle king, but didn't fly. Instead, he ran out of the valley. At this moment, Cloud Sky Castle was in a state of panic. All the young disciples were no longer in the mood to practice martial arts. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and gathered in the square. Everyone's face was filled with fear and uneasiness. The old, young, women, and children of Cloud Sky City also instinctively gathered in the square. Everyone was woken up by the human skin giant drum of the Evil Ways army before dawn. Then, waves of fear drilled into their hearts and into their bones. They all instinctively gathered in the square, instinctively hugging each other for warmth and expelling their fear. At this moment, when they saw Yang Dingtian riding the demon eagle king over, everyone's expression suddenly changed as they swarmed over. "City Lord Yang, can we win? City Lord, will the Evil Ways army come in?" Everyone's faces were filled with fear and uneasiness. "We can win, of course we can win," Yang Dingtian said with a smile. "If nothing unexpected happens, the battle will end around noon tomorrow." "Wait a moment, there will be a mission. Your mission is to cook under Madam's lead. There is a battle ahead, so the food supply will be tight. You have to contribute." "Yes," everyone replied loudly. Of course, although there were hundreds of thousands of soldiers to eat, they didn't need to cook. Yang Dingtian just gave them something to do. When they were free, the fear would ferment more easily. Then, Yang Dingtian smiled and rode across the square, not seeming to be in a hurry. The old and young in the square saw him calm and composed, and their fear couldn't help but lessen a lot. However, Yang Dingtian was soon stopped by a group of people. There were hundreds of youths, wearing all kinds of armor and holding weapons. "City Lord, we want to participate in the battle. We are part of Cloud Sky City. We want to participate in the battle. We don't want to stay in this castle," the leading youth said to Yang Dingtian. "Participate in the battle?" Yang Dingtian said, "Good, I'm very happy that you have such thoughts. But unfortunately, the positions on the city wall are full. We have enough troops, so there is no place for you. Do you see these people behind you?" The young disciple nodded. "They are full of fear and dread." Yang Dingtian said, "I can tell you that my wife and son are in the castle. Now, go up the castle wall and be the last line of defense for Cloud Sky City. Protect the old, young, and women of Cloud Sky City, including my wife and son. Can you do it?" "Yes," the hundreds of youths of Cloud Sky City said excitedly. Then, he excitedly rushed up the walls of the Cloud Castle after leaving Cloud Sky City. In the past, Yang Dingtian always flew 1,000 meters in the air, as fast as lightning. This time, he floated more than 10 meters in the air and flew towards the city wall at a moderate speed. Along the way, there were many temporary wooden houses and even tents. The battle had begun. The millions of citizens of Cloud Sky City were all scattered in the houses in the city. At this time, hearing the human skin drums of the demon army in the distance, they were already in a panic. There were fearful people everywhere, and the cries of children could be heard everywhere. The citizens were full of fear and didn't know what to do, so they could only wander around aimlessly. Yang Dingtian went all the way. Suddenly, everyone's attention was focused. "City Lord, City Lord." Countless people rushed up, as if being closer to Yang Dingtian would make them feel safer. Yang Dingtian frowned and said, "Why are you all running around like headless flies? Don't you have to work?" Isn't this a great battle?" a muscular man asked. "So, what if it's a war? The enemy can't break in," Yang Dingtian said. "The work outside the city is done. How much work is there to do in the city? How many citizens are still living in the simplest shacks? How many houses are still to be built? How many drains are still to be dug? Why are you all still standing here?
Go and work."
Yang Dingtian's scolding made them quiet down and swept away a lot of their fear. "And these children, don't they have to go to school every day? Why are you still standing here? Go back and eat. After eating, go to school," Yang Dingtian said. That's right. The children of Cloud Sky City had to go to school every day. Of course, the content they learned was different from Earth. Most of it was knowledge about production, the races of the entire chaotic continent, the Tiando League, the history of evil ways, and so on. Of course, there were no special schools. They found a hall, a board, and a relatively knowledgeable old man to teach them. Although it was very crude, it directly won the hearts of countless people. "City Lord, we are not afraid. We are always ready to go to the city wall and fight the enemy to the end," a strong man said loudly. "Good. It's good that you have such thoughts," Yang Dingtian said. "However, we have enough troops. We don't need you to go to war. But after you work, you can join the militia. You are mainly to help maintain order in the city. You have to be careful of the enemy hiding in front of us and causing trouble." "Yes," the strong man said loudly. "I will immediately organize people. We definitely won't let the infiltrators succeed." That's right. In addition to the regular army, there was an astronomical number of militia in Cloud Sky City. These people were not used to fight, nor were they even reserves. They were mainly used to maintain order and discover enemy spies. Many spies had entered Cloud Sky City. Some were directly sent by the evil ways. Some were from the World Society, some were from the Northwest Qin City, and some were from the Divine Weapons Villa. Logically speaking, this was like throwing dozens of grains of sand into hundreds of kilograms of rice. It was very difficult to discover. However, Yang Dingtian started an unprecedented war of the people in the chaotic continent. He let the people guarantee each other in dozens or hundreds of people and establish an incomparably huge militia. These spies were almost directly uprooted. Just like that, Yang Dingtian walked more than 200 miles unhurriedly, causing the panicked and fearful crowd to gradually calm down. The last 30 miles were almost all military camps. Instantly, the atmosphere changed and became incomparably solemn. Almost all of the military camps were empty. This was because all the troops had rushed to the city wall defense line. Yang Dingtian suddenly flew toward the city wall at full speed. He arrived at the city wall. Instantly, the 100-mile city wall was armed to the teeth. The 100,000 troops were all distributed on the 100-mile city wall. They were densely packed and couldn't be seen at a glance. In addition to weapons, each of the 100,000 troops had a strong bow on their back and dozens of arrows. Of course, most of them weren't archers. However, the enemy was like a vast ocean. They didn't need to aim at all. Behind the city wall, in the square behind every city gate, rows of cavalry were neat and tidy, ready to charge at any time. In addition to the Demon Dragon Army, there were nearly 25,000 cavalry in Cloud Sky City. In addition to the Black Blood Cavalry and Cloud Sky City's cavalry, there were also cavalry from the vassals and nearly 10,000 cavalry from the World Society South. The 25,000 cavalry formed more than a dozen square formations. It was still a black mass. The 3,500 Demon Dragon cavalry were divided into two groups, separated by dozens of miles. Behind the two city gates, they were like two sharp swords. At this moment, the sound of the human skin drum was already very loud. It was deafening and made one's liver and gallbladder shatter. The horses of the 25,000 cavalry had already begun to tremble in fear. Although the cavalry also felt fear, they still quietly comforted their mounts. As for the 3,500 Demon Dragon mounts, they were calm and composed. Their bodies were filled with soaring battle intent, and there wasn't the slightest bit of fear. Yang Dingtian suddenly soared into the sky, crossed the city wall, and looked into the distance. In the shocking sound of the drum, the entire earth was trembling. The army of evil ways was advancing. Countless footsteps were knocking on the ground. But how many troops and how many people were there? It was completely unclear. Because in the distance, there was dust soaring into the sky as if a sandstorm was sweeping over. He couldn't see how many troops there were. He could only see that in 100 miles, there was dust and sandstorms soaring into the sky. The army of evil ways was like an otherworldly beast, summoning wind and rain as it swept over. The army of evil ways was completely enveloped by the sandstorm and couldn't be seen clearly. Yang Dingtian landed in the center of the city wall. Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue, and Shimin Lai, the four most important officers of Cloud Sky City, all bowed to greet him. Yang Dingtian nodded, came to the center of them, and continued to look into the distance. At this moment, the flying mounts circling in the air flew towards the city wall and shouted, "The army of evil ways is 80 miles away." That's right. At this moment, the army was still 80 miles away from Cloud Sky City. But they could already hear the sound of huge drums and earth-shaking footsteps. "Put 100 basins of water on the city wall," Yang Dingtian said. Yes. Soon, 100 basins of water were placed on the city wall. Boom, 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 along with the sound of the human skin drum and the sound of countless footsteps hitting the ground. These 100 basins of water kept rippling and shaking. After a period of time, the flying mounts in the air reported again, "The army of demons is 60 miles away from Cloud Sky City." At this moment, the water in the basins was about to jump out. After a while, the flying mounts in the air reported again, "The army of demons is 50 miles away from Cloud Sky City." At noon, the flying mounts in the air reported, "The army of demons is 30 miles away from Cloud Sky City." The army of demons is 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. Immediately after, suddenly, a loud roar broke through the clouds. The water in the 100 basins suddenly surged up by half a foot. Bang! Then, there was another loud sound, as if countless giant hammers were hitting the ground in unison. Then, the sandstorm in the distance stopped moving forward. The army of evil ways stopped when they were 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. Then, the sandstorm that filled the sky gradually dissipated. The army of evil ways gradually revealed its true appearance. Even though Yang Dingtian was already mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but gasp. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers of Cloud Sky City even instinctively felt a chill in their bodies and then leaned back. It was as if the visual impact of the army of evil ways was already like an incomparably huge aura that pushed them back. This scene had never been seen before, whether it was in the movies on Earth or in the reality of the chaotic world. They had never seen such an earth-shattering scene. It turned out that when hundreds of thousands of soldiers gathered together, it was actually so huge. Covering the sky and covering the earth, it was boundless, like a vast ocean. At a glance, there was a black mass everywhere, and there was no end to it at all. It was truly difficult for birds to cross. If it was 10,000 people in a square formation, there were actually 60 to 70 square formations in the first 20 miles of Cloud Sky City. In other words, the army of evil ways that came this time wasn't 450,000, but 600,000 to 700,000. Perhaps it was because of the ambiguous attitude of Qiu Wanjia of the Eastern Legion that a portion of the expeditionary army from Zhongzhou directly joined the Southern Legion to go up north. Therefore, the army of enemies at the gate was a total of 600,000 to 700,000. An army of 600,000 to 700,000 seemed to be densely packed with soldiers for dozens to hundreds of miles. It was as if these soldiers were enough to completely drown the entire Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the 100,000 soldiers on the Cloud Heaven City had instantly turned cold. Although they had already mentally prepared themselves, when the army of hundreds of thousands was really placed in front of them, that feeling of shock and fear was still like a ferocious giant beast pressing down on them. It was irresistible. The commander of the Southern Legion wasn't Ning Wuming or Qin Chichi, but the Sky Phoenix Pavilion Master, Leng Yanmei. This cold and ferocious woman. From 20 miles away, she saw the city walls of Cloud Sky City, which was close to 100 miles, and her heart still trembled. In just over a month, the people of Cloud Sky City had actually built such a miraculous 100 miles of city walls. It was undeniably shocking. However, all of this was useless. In the eyes of Leng Yanmei, this 100 miles of city walls was completely vulnerable. Under the attack of the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind her, the entire Cloud Sky City instantly collapsed. She even felt that it was ridiculous. To actually send out hundreds of thousands to millions of soldiers to attack a small Cloud Sky City was simply too ridiculous. Although the political significance of this was the most important, she still felt that it was too ridiculous and overestimated Yang Dingtian. A mere Cloud Sky City only needed a few tens of thousands of people, and it was already enough to exterminate it. From 20 miles away, Leng Yanmei saw Yang Dingtian and said with disdain, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. In the center of the army of evil ways, there was an incomparably huge beast carriage. There were more than a dozen rhinoceros beasts pulling it, and it was like a moving palace. Leng Yanmei came to the front of the palace and said, "Young madam, what should we do?" Qin Chichi's voice came from the palace. "Demon Wolf Army, come out in full force. Kill all the ants on the city walls, and eat their meat." "Yes," Leng Yanmei said. Leng Yanmei raised the army flag and waved it fiercely. Suddenly, the human skin giant bones in front of the flag, under the beating of the huge man-eating beasts, let out a shocking sound. Boom, 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 boom. It was really a shocking sound, deafening, almost making people's hearts explode, and all the blood vessels were about to burst open. The 100,000 soldiers on the city walls almost instinctively trembled, trembling. Then, there was a mournful wolf howl. Then, the entire earth trembled, as if countless thunderbolts were hitting the ground. Then, a black tide rushed out from the army of evil ways. It was as fast as lightning. Innumerable. The sound of hitting the ground was really like thunder. Bang, 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 bang. The 100 basins of water on the city walls began to jump, splashing up a foot. The silver basins filled with water began to tremble violently. Looking at the surging black tide, Yang Dingtian's eyes opened wider and wider. Then, he saw that the ground dozens of miles was densely packed with the enemy's demon wolf cavalry. This lineup was 10 times more than the demon wolf cavalry surprise attack a few days ago. Song Chunhua was the commander of the King of Cavalry. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but turn his head and ask, "How many demon wolf cavalry are there?" Song Chunhua's face was pale, and he panted hurriedly. No less than 20,000. More than 20,000 demon wolf cavalry. It was really more than 10 times more than the previous surprise attack. Yang Dingtian had once expected that there might be more than 10,000 demon wolf cavalry in the army of evil ways. However, he never thought that there would be 20,000. And the demon dragon army only estimated that they could defeat more than 10,000 demon wolf cavalry, but they didn't dare to say that there were more than 20,000. The entire Dongli Grasslands demon wolf army didn't exceed 30,000. Could it be that they were going all out this time? The 20,000 demon wolf army, under the crazy charge, instantly covered 100 miles of ground. With the power of shocking thunder, they surged over. At a speed of more than 500 miles per hour, they whistled over. Qin Huayu stepped forward and whispered, "Sect Master, we only have 3,500 demon dragon army. Can we win?"
Can we win?
Yang Dingtian didn't know either. He sat on the Demon Eagle King and flew to the front of the Demon Dragon army. He slowly pulled out his sword and waved it forward. Demon Dragon army, attack. Yes. The 3,500 Demon Dragon army shouted in unison. Rumble. The two huge city gates suddenly opened. The 3,500 Demon Dragon army, divided into two teams, rushed out like two sharp swords. Who? Yang Dingtian's Demon Eagle King suddenly soared into the sky and flew out of the city, following the Demon Dragon army's back. More than 20,000 Demon Wolf army covered the sky and earth. And the 3,500 Demon Dragon army were just two lonely sharp swords. Looking from the sky, it formed a sharp visual contrast. The Demon Dragon army's black shadows were less than 1/10 of the opponents. They seemed incomparably weak, as if they were about to be completely devoured by the Demon Wolf army in an instant. A short distance of more than 10 miles. The two overlords of the land rushed at a speed of more than 500 miles per hour. Suddenly, the two black shadows approached at lightning speed. 10 miles. 8 miles. 5 miles. 3 miles. The four commanders of the Demon Dragon army were all at the front of the team. Looking at the endless Demon Wolf army in front of them, looking at the incomparably ferocious and huge Demon Wolf demon cavalry. Everyone lowered their bodies and urged their horses to gallop. Countless Demon Wolf army waved the huge swords in their hands. And the Demon Dragon army still didn't unsheath their swords, quietly hibernating. Getting closer and closer. Getting closer and closer. 300 meters. 200 meters. 100 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. Unsheathing. The 3,500 Demon Dragon warriors suddenly unsheathed their swords. In an instant, Yang Dingtian used the blood black gold and Mo Long's claw, plus the blood demon sword that was modified by the heaven and earth mystic fire. It was like a steel forest, piercing the sky. 3,500 blood demon swords. Suddenly, it emitted a murderous aura. In front, all the Demon Wolf army shook violently and instinctively shrank, almost trembling with fear. Boom! Two trump card armies. One army was 3,500. One army was 25,000. Instant collision. Like Mars hitting Earth. Like the collision of nuclear bombs. In an instant, it exploded violently. Chapter 483. Pavilion Master Lung, how long will it take to kill the Devil Dragon army? Qin Chichi asked. Not more than 15 minutes, Lung Yanmei said. However, in the previous surprise attack, 2,000 against 2,000, the monstrous Wolf Legion was completely wiped out, Qin Shiqi said. But half of the Devil Dragon army died, Leng Yanmei said. The Demon Wolf army has more explosive power and is more ferocious and cruel. As for the Devil Dragon army, they have more endurance and glory. However, in the face of 10 times the difference in numbers, any kind of willpower and endurance is useless. At the moment of contact, the 3,000 Devil Dragon army will be completely torn apart and devoured. They won't have any chance. Leng Yanmei said, therefore, in less than 15 minutes, Yang Dingtian's few thousand Devil Dragon army will be completely annihilated. The Demon Wolf army will not have more than 1,000 casualties. Looking at the two overlords of the continent getting closer, Yang Dingtian became more and more nervous. In the end, he almost couldn't breathe. The 100,000 soldiers on the city wall were so nervous that they were twitching. The 3,500 Devil Dragon army was Cloud Sky City's absolute trump card. If they lost the first battle, Cloud Sky City wouldn't be able to stop the enemy's 20,000 Demon Wolf army. If they lost the first battle, Cloud Sky City would lose completely. However, could they win? The 100,000 soldiers on the city wall didn't have any confidence. This was because the disparity was too great. The 3,500 Devil Dragon army soldiers didn't even seem to be 1% of the enemy's Demon Wolf army. The enemy's Demon Wolf army was truly overwhelming, capable of destroying heaven and earth. Bang! An earth-shattering sound. The two overlords of the continent instantly clashed fiercely. The hearts of everyone in Cloud Sky City were about to burst out of their chests. The first battle between the righteous and evil armies had officially begun. Everyone was incomparably afraid to see that scene. The incomparably small Devil Dragon army would be instantly devoured. However, it seemed that this scene would definitely happen. Every warrior in the Devil Dragon army looked at the overwhelming Demon Wolf army. Their hearts were filled with the will to die and tragic feelings. Even if he were to die, he would kill a few more enemies. Even if he were to die, he would die a heroic death. Even though Yang Dingtian had changed all of their outfits, their swords, armors, and battering rams were all coated with a layer of bloody black gold. However, the number of enemies was simply too great, with a layer of bloody black gold on their equipment. So, what if their combat strength was increased by 30%? There were simply too many enemies. However, the Devil Dragon army was not afraid of death. Even if they were completely annihilated, they would fight to the end. After the four commanders pulled out their swords, they let out roars that soared into the sky. Kill! More than 3,000 blood demon swords emitted a murderous aura. Then, the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army charged towards the Demonic Wolf army ferociously. Bang, 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 bang. The expected pain didn't come. The expected death did not come. The expected tearing did not appear. The blood demon sword in each of their hands was like the light of hell, directly tearing apart the opponent's incomparably sturdy shields, directly breaking the opponent's terrifyingly sharp giant sabers, and directly tearing apart the opponent's sturdy armor. In the end, the ferocious giant demonic wolf army was instantly torn in half by the blood demon sword. It turned into blood that splattered all over the sky. The blood demon armor in front of the Devil Dragon army instantly smashed the ferocious giant demonic wolf army's armor into pieces. Its skull was torn apart, and its entire body was instantly smashed into pieces, turning into minced meat. Then, under the Devil Dragon army's incomparably shocked and astonished gaze, the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army crushed over just like that. That's right, they crushed and plowed over just like that. There was no resistance at all. Everything that blocked the blood demon sword was torn apart, and all of them were smashed into pieces. Everything that stood in the way of the demonic dragon mount was crushed into pieces and trampled into a pile of meat paste. The Devil Dragon army plowed over just like that. How could this be? How could this be? The Devil Dragon army was completely massacring. A few days ago, the Devil Dragon army and the Demonic Wolf army were fighting 2,000 against 2,000. Although the Devil Dragon army obtained the final victory, the Devil Dragon army was at a disadvantage in the instant of close combat. This was because the demonic wolf army's explosive power was too strong. More than 60% of the Devil Dragon army's deaths occurred in the instant of the collision. 3,500 clashed with 25,000. The Devil Dragon army's warriors were already prepared for the most tragic and bloody deaths. But the result was actually one-sided. All the warriors of the Devil Dragon army immediately had their gazes on their swords. The treasured swords that City Lord Yang Dingtian had modified for them were actually so powerful. They were so powerful that it was completely unimaginable. The enemy's weapons and armor were completely unable to block them. Therefore, the Devil Dragon army, which should have been at a disadvantage, was actually completely invincible. And most importantly, after the swords were unsheathed, the incomparably ferocious and bloodthirsty demonic wolf army, who didn't fear death, actually trembled in fear and instinctively retreated. Wherever the blood demon sword passed, the wild beast's first reaction wasn't to fight, but to dodge. Since when did wild beasts become afraid? Of course, it was because of the blood demon sword's evil spirit. After forging these blood demon swords, Yang Dingtian immediately discovered that they were filled with the evil spirit's evil spirit. Therefore, Yang Dingtian immediately sheathed these treasured swords. When he gave the equipment to the Devil Dragon army's warriors, he ordered that no one was allowed to unsheathe their swords. They had to unsheathe their swords at the instant before the collision. The purpose was to accumulate the evil spirit. It was to accumulate the evil spirit to the extreme and then release it instantly. The power was indeed incomparably shocking. Yang Dingtian, who was on the city wall, was completely stunned. When the enemy sent out 25,000 demonic wolf mounts, he made the most optimistic and pessimistic estimates in his heart. However, even if he multiplied his optimism by 10 times, he still didn't expect this scene. He felt that in the instant of collision, at least 1/3 of the Devil Dragon army would die. Next, it was a battle of wills. Under glory and willpower, the Devil Dragon army would become stronger as they fought. The most optimistic estimate was that in the face of 25,000 demonic wolf mounts, they might win, but the Devil Dragon mounts would almost be completely annihilated. Moreover, this was based on the fact that the demonic wolf army began to flee after seeing the large-scale casualties. This was the rule of wild beasts. They were bloodthirsty and didn't know what fear was. However, once a large number of their kind died, they would begin to flee. Their fearlessness would also turn into complete fear. Yang Dingtian really didn't expect that the situation would be like this. It was actually a one-sided massacre. The 3,500 demon dragon warriors had actually managed to crush them. Everywhere they passed, they were crushed into pieces and turned into meat paste. Where was the cruelty and bloodthirstiness of the demonic wolf army? Where was their terrifying explosive power? Why did they all disappear? Soon Yang Dingtian found the reason.
It was evil spirit.
The Devil Dragon army's treasured swords had killed countless people. They originally had evil spirit. Then, this evil spirit was instantly magnified by the bloody black gold's incomparably powerful energy aura. Finally, it was magnified again by the extremely terrifying demonic spirit aura. Then, it was completely sealed in the scabbard. When the battle began, more than 3,000 demonic blood swords were unsheathed. Suddenly, an evil spirit surged into the sky. Humans could still rely on glory and willpower to avoid the mental impact of this evil spirit. However, wild beasts couldn't do it. Therefore, the demonic wolf army instinctively dodged. Therefore, it became a one-sided massacre. The 100,000 people on the city wall looked at the scene in front of them and were first completely shocked. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. More than 3,000 Devil Dragon army, facing the demonic wolf army that was nearly 10 times their size, was actually a one-sided massacre. Then, cheers and roars like a tide. Long live! Long live! Long live City Lord Yang Dingtian! Long live the Devil Dragon armies! At this time, Leng Yanmei's entire body was trembling. She looked at everything in front of her in disbelief. This is impossible? This is impossible? Even the most absurd nightmare wouldn't happen in front of her. With an 8 times difference in numbers, they should have instantly devoured the opponent and killed the entire Devil Dragon army in 15 minutes. However, the reality was actually a one-sided massacre? How could this be? How could this be? Lung Yanmei's entire body was completely cold. What's going on? Qin Chichi said lightly. Our demonic wolf army is being slaughtered. They don't have the slightest ability to resist. Lung Yanmei hissed. Nonsense, how is this possible? Qin Chichi said hoarsely. Really, I also don't dare to imagine.
How could this be?
Our demonic wolf army has no killing intent. They are all hiding. Lung Yanmei said hoarsely. Suddenly, a black startled bird flew into the sky and looked down at the situation. This startled bird could become Qin Chichi's eyes. After a long time, Qin Chichi said lightly, Yang Dingtian is crazy. He used all the bloody black gold to modify the Devil Dragon Army's weapons and armor. I also felt that these weapons contain the killing intent of a 1,000-year-old devil spirit. No wonder, no wonder. Then can the situation be reversed?
Lung Yanmei said.
Yang Dingtian's spending is really shocking. Doesn't he know that the value of these tens of thousands of bloody black gold has already surpassed the Devil Dragon Army? Qin Chichi said in disbelief. Reversal? We just have to wait for the killing intent of these blood demon swords to dissipate. As long as the killing intent dissipates, it will be time for the demonic wolf army to counterattack. Massacre, massacre, massacre. The Devil Dragon Army was running crazily. They were like killing machines, crazily crushing and crazily massacring. They didn't need to wave their swords. They only needed to rush over, trample over, and stab over. The demonic wolf army wasn't being killed by dozens. It wasn't hundreds of them being killed. It was thousands of them being killed. In less than 15 minutes, the demonic wolf army was killed by over 10,000 people. The ground within dozens of miles was covered in blood, flesh, and severed limbs. However, the 4 commanders of the Devil Dragon Army were shocked to find that the killing intent of the blood demon swords in their hands was getting weaker and weaker. Once the killing intent dissipated, the demonic wolf army would no longer hide. They would fight head-on. At this moment, the demonic wolf army still had more than 10,000 soldiers. Orders. 5,000 demonic wolf cavalry stay where they are. They will be used as cannon fodder to deplete the killing intent of the Devil Dragon Army. 10,000 demonic wolf army will retreat 10 li and get into formation. They will wait for the final battle with the Devil Dragon Army. Qin Chichi ordered. Yes. Immediately, the dozens of flags of the demonic wolf army started waving. Then, a few hundred wolf horns started blowing their orders. A few minutes later, the 10,000 demonic wolf army quickly turned around and retreated. The remaining 5,000 stood in front of the Devil Dragon Army, allowing them to kill and deplete the killing intent. City Lord, Qin Chichi has plotted. Song Chunhua said. Yang Dingtian nodded. Of course he saw it. The 5,000 demonic wolf warriors were left as cannon fodder to deplete the killing intent. The 10,000 demonic wolf army retreated and waited for the final battle. However, there was no other way now. I believe that even without the killing intent, our Devil Dragon Army can still win against the 10,000 demonic wolf army. Yang Dingtian said. The Devil Dragon Army was still slaughtering. However, the killing intent of their blood demon swords was getting weaker and weaker. After it decreased to a certain extent, suddenly, the demonic wolf army was no longer afraid. They no longer hid and started to fight the Devil Dragon Army head-on. However, there were less than 1,000 demonic wolf army left. 15 minutes later, there were less than 1,000 demon wolves left, and all of them were killed. However, the Devil Dragon Army had already suffered some casualties. Previously, when they were filled with killing intent, they faced 25,000 and slaughtered 14,000 without any casualties. In the end, when the killing intent was depleted, there were casualties against 1,000 demonic wolf warriors, although the casualties were very small. At this moment, the 10,000 demonic wolf cavalry had already formed a sharp knife formation. They were restless and were ready to fight. Young madam, the cavalry of the Eastern and Western armies have already arrived. They are less than 100 miles away from the battlefield. Leng Yanmei suddenly said. Yang Dingtian's miraculous performance destroyed 100 suspension bridges. Qin Wanzhou very tacitly stopped advancing east. As for the Eastern army led by Qiu Wanjie, they were ambushed in Sky Thunder City and their son was captured. They also very tacitly stopped advancing. They delayed for 3 days. Evil ways were used. Qin Wanzhou's 2 sons and 3 daughters suddenly exploded and died. A plague appeared in the northwest Qin city's territory. In a short period of time, more than 100,000 people died. Qin Wanzhou felt a bone-piercing pain. Then, he had no choice but to deploy 3,000 flying mounts to transport the Western Army across the abyss and into Cloud Sky City's territory. Of course, he delayed for 3 days for Yang Dingtian. But he also paid a huge price. After Qin Wanzhou's Western Army advanced east, Qiu Wanjie couldn't do it alone. He also used the shortest amount of time to open up a tunnel for the Eastern Army to enter Cloud Sky City. At this moment, the cavalry of the Eastern and Western armies finally arrived at the battlefield. Their infantry troops were 300 miles away from Cloud Sky City. How many of them are there in total? Qin Chichi asked. Qin Wanzhou's Western Army cavalry, 150,000. Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Army cavalry, 130,000. Leng Yanmei said. Qin Chichi said, order them to enter the battlefield immediately and participate in the battle. Yes, Leng Yanmei said. Then, dozens of flying mounts flew in the east and west direction to convey the order to Qin Wanzhou and Qiu Wanjie. City Lord, there is a message from the sky. The cavalry of the Eastern and Western armies have arrived. They are less than 100 miles away from the battlefield. Jiao Liao quickly reported. Yang Dingtian said, send 2 messengers to Qin City Lord Qin Wanzhou and Divine Weapons Manor Lord Qiu Wanjie. Stop and see who wins first before making a decision. Yes, Jiao Liao said.
Wait.
Yang Dingtian said, bring Qiu Yiming here.
Yes.
A moment later, Qiu Yiming was brought up. The handsome and confident young Master Qiu was gone. He had lost a lot of weight. His eye sockets were sunken, and his eyeballs were bloodshot. His entire body was dark and swarthy, and he was wearing dirty and tattered clothes. Yang Dingtian frowned slightly and said, Qiu Yiming, did someone mistreat you?
No.
Qiu Yiming turned his head away from Yang Dingtian and said, Humph, who dares to mistreat me? Your father is here, leading hundreds of thousands of cavalry. He is 100 miles away. Help me send a message. Tell him to stop and see who wins first before making a decision, Yang Dingtian said. Qiu Yiming was shocked and said, You are not afraid that after I go back, I will immediately ask my father to lead the troops and kill them to avenge the humiliation of being captured? Yang Dingtian smiled and said, That is up to you. Then, with an incomparably complicated expression, Qiu Yiming sat on his flying mount and flew towards the east. As for the other messenger, he flew towards the west. Qin Wanzhou received Qin Chichi and Yang Dingtian's messengers almost at the same time. Qin Chichi wanted him to immediately send out the troops. Yang Dingtian wanted him to observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins the next battle. At this moment, Qin Wanzhou was floating 1,000 meters in the air. The gorgeous Qiu Ruhan was beside him. Husband, choose carefully. You don't have many children left, Qiu Ruhan said faintly and threateningly. Yes. Qin Wanzhou smiled as if there was no anger or hatred. Then he fell into a dilemma. That's right, he really didn't have many children left. Evil ways killed more, and he wouldn't be able to bear it. He looked at the army of evil ways 100 miles away and the 10,000 demon wolf army that had gathered together. Then, he looked at the Cloud Heaven City 100 miles away and the 3,000 demon dragon army soldiers. The 2 trump card armies were 10 miles apart, quietly confronting each other and filled with explosive power. Qin Wanzhou clenched his teeth and shouted, All troops, halt. Rest and reorganize. He chose to observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins or loses. Xiao Ruhan's expression changed as she said coldly, "I hope you won't regret it." Her voice was incomparably cruel. At the same time, Qiu Yiming appeared in front of Qiu Wanjie, causing the haggard Qiu Wanjie to be instantly shocked and overjoyed. Yang Dingtian actually let him return. He actually let the most important hostage return. Qiu Yiming went forward and said, "Father, Yang Dingtian asked me to pass you a message. Stop and observe first and make a decision after seeing who wins or loses." Qiu Wanjie saw his son's miserable state. There were a few scars on his face, and he was skinny, dark, and haggard. He didn't look like a human at all. He couldn't help but be furious. "Yang Dingtian, that bastard, abused you? I will tear him into pieces right now." "Abused?" "No," Qiu Yiming said. "Yang Dingtian, that bastard, pretended to be kind and righteous. He wouldn't abuse me." "Then, how did you become like this?" Qiu Wanjie's heart ached. "I have been working every day, digging tunnels and building city walls. But Yang Dingtian, that bastard, sealed my sea of qi and made me fall a few times. I was almost disfigured," Qiu Yiming said furiously. "Humph, just you wait. Father will take revenge for you," Qiu Wanjie said. "And up to you?" Qiu Yiming then turned and flew towards Cloud Heaven City. "Yiming? Where are you going?" Qiu Wanjie was shocked. "Back," Qiu Yiming said. "Back where?" Qiu Wanjie asked. "Back to Cloud Heaven City," Qiu Yiming said. "Father, I don't care what decision you make. But I promised Arai that I won't be a deserter. Even if I die, I will die in front of Cloud Heaven City. I will take my leave first." Then, under Qiu Wanjie's astonishment, Qiu Yiming flew back. Qiu Wanjie was shocked. Wasn't this brat scolding Yang Dingtian? Why did he go back and say that he wanted to live and die with Cloud Heaven City? At this moment, the woman beside Qiu Wanjie said coldly, "The crafty Yang Dingtian is the best at bewitching people's hearts. Manor Lord Qiu, everything will be decided by you. But you will bear all the consequences." If Yang Dingtian was here, he would definitely recognize this woman. The incomparably beautiful and exotic Wu Maji. Qiu Wanjie clenched his teeth and shouted, "All troops, stop. Rest and reorganize." Wu Maji's face turned cold. "Manor Lord Qiu, I hope you don't regret this." "Young madam, Qin Wanchou's Western Legion Cavalry and Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Legion Cavalry have all stopped," Leng Yanmei said. "Old and crafty bastard, still trying to be a fence-sitter at this moment," Qin Chichi said coldly. "All right, let's see who wins and who loses before deciding. Inject the demon blood into the demon wolf army. Then, advance courageously and kill the demon dragon army." "Yes," Leng Yanmei said. Then, she waved the flag and blew the wolf horn. Instantly, the warriors on the demon wolf mounts took out a tube of demon blood and injected it into the necks of the demon wolf mounts. Instantly, 10,000 demon wolves let out a strange howl. Instantly, black and red blood filled their huge beastly eyes. Their claws were growing rapidly, and their fangs were growing rapidly. Their forelegs suddenly became thick and strong. Their skin and flesh were torn apart inch by inch, dripping with blood. These 10,000 demon wolves instantly swelled by 30% and released an extremely ferocious and terrifying aura. After injecting the demon blood, the demon wolves were demonized. Once demonized, their speed, explosive power, and strength increased. All of them increased by 30% and above. Moreover, they would never back down. They would only charge forward courageously until they tore the enemy apart or were torn apart themselves. The demon wolves injected with the demon blood were destined to die regardless of victory or defeat. Qin Chichi, even if she had to pay the price of the 10,000 demon wolves being annihilated, she had to completely destroy the demon dragon army and obtain victory. Then, Qin Wanchou and Qiu Wanjie would immediately attack Cloud Sky City. The 10,000 demon wolves 10 miles away let out demonic howls that made people tremble. The demon dragon warriors suddenly had a bad premonition in their hearts. The blood demon sword's killing intent had been used up, but there were still 10,000 enemies and all of them had demonized. No one knew the outcome of the battle and their fate. However, these 10,000 demon wolves were now emitting the aura of demons. Even if they were 10 miles away, they would still make people tremble. The first commander suddenly stepped out and shouted, "What do we demon dragon warriors rely on to fight? Is it killing intent? Tell us, what do we use to fight?" "Willpower and glory." Over 3,000 demon dragon warriors shouted. "That's right, we use willpower and glory to fight." The first commander shouted, "When we fight, do we care who the enemy is? Do we care how strong the enemy is?"
No.
All the demon dragon warriors shouted. "That's right, we never care who the enemy is. We only care about where the enemy is." The first commander said, "Tell me, where is our enemy?" 10 miles ahead." "That's right, 10 miles ahead." The first commander said, "We, the demon dragon army, never care about who the enemy is. We only care about where the enemy is. Our enemy is right in front. Slaughter and death are our fates. For the glory of the demon dragon army, kill." The first commander roared and took the lead to charge out. Looking at the 10,000 demon wolves with demonic aura, he rode alone without any fear and charged forward. For the glory of the demon dragon army, kill. More than 3,000 members of the devil dragon army charged forward like lightning. Qin Shiqi's expression changed, Qin Wancho's expression changed, and Xiao Wanjie's expression changed. The first to charge was actually the demon dragon army. The 10,000 demon wolves were stunned at first. Then, they opened their blood-red eyes, opened their bloody mouths, and roared towards the sky.
Kill.
The 10,000 demon wolves charged out crazily. Their speed increased by 30% and was much faster than the demon dragon army. The two trump card armies charged once again. This time it was a real collision. The demon blood sword of the demon dragon army no longer had any killing intent. Evil ways of the demon wolves had demonized and their strength had increased tremendously. This time it was a real bloodthirsty battle. Two lightning bolts approached each other rapidly. In an instant,
bang!
A loud sound echoed. A crazy collision, an unprecedented collision. Endless blood, endless flesh and blood, endless howls. The collision of blood and fire. The most naked, bloody, and cruel battle. The impact of speed. The impact of strength. Tearing, slashing, piercing, and colliding. The demon dragon army had always been fearless. The demon wolf army had already forgotten about fear. They weren't afraid of death at all. Even after demonizing, they had been chasing after death. Countless weapons were broken, and countless armors were torn. In the sky above the battlefield, a bloody mist burst out. Countless fresh blood covered the entire battlefield. In an instant, the demon dragon army and demon wolf army were completely covered by the bloody mist. Everyone gradually couldn't see the battle situation clearly. Fresh blood covered everyone's vision. There were only roars and no screams. There were only the sounds of weapons clashing, flesh tearing, and armors exploding. In the bloody mist shrouding the battlefield, almost no one could see who was winning or losing. The only thing they could do was to wait for the battle to end. This was the most cruel battle. It was short, or maybe it was just a short moment. It was very long, or maybe it was like a year. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the bloody mist that filled the sky and listened to the heart-wrenching sounds of battle. They waited for the battle to end. The sounds gradually became softer. In the end, there was almost no sound at all. The sound of swords clashing was no more. The sound of armors exploding was no more. The terrifying roars were also no more. The entire battlefield was silent. However, the bloody mist was still dense and didn't thin at all. Everyone held their breaths and stared at the bloody mist, waiting for the final result. Now, all they had to do was wait. Whichever side walked out of the blood mist would be the final victor. Suddenly, A demon wolf slowly walked out of the bloody mist and appeared in everyone's vision. The one who walked out was a demon wolf demon rider. Suddenly, Cloud Sky City was ice cold and filled with despair. In the Evil Ways army, there was an arrogant roar. "We won," Lung Yenmei said.
Oh.
Qin Chichi said indifferently. 20,000 Golden Eagle army, prepare to attack and give Cloud Sky City a fatal blow. Kill everyone inside.
Yes.
Lung Yenmei said. In the distance, Qiu Wanjie's expression changed, and his body trembled. There is no choice. There is no choice. Yang Dingtian, don't blame me. In the sky 100 miles to the west, Qiu Ruhan was laughing wildly. Qin Wancho's face was ashen. He closed his eyes in extreme pain and muttered, Yang Dingtian, there are no miracles. There are no miracles in this world. That demon wolf demon rider slowly walked in the direction of Cloud Sky City.
Whoosh.
Whoosh. Whoosh. Suddenly, a few bolts of lightning shot out from the bloody mist. Dozens of demon dragon demon riders rushed out of the bloody mist and instantly killed that demon wolf, completely dismembering its corpse. Rumble. Immediately after, countless black dots and countless demon dragon demon riders rushed out from the bloody mist. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Thousands. Finally, the dense and majestic demon dragon army rushed out of the bloody mist. Their bodies were covered in blood and mincemeat. Finally, the entire demon dragon army gathered and formed a battle formation. The first commander bowed in the direction of Cloud Sky City and said, reporting to my lord, the demon dragon army has completed the battle mission. We have exterminated the entire demon wolf army. Victory! Facing the army of 10,000 demonized demon wolves, the demon dragon warriors once again maintained their glory and obtained victory. In the sky above Cloud Sky City, there was an earth-shattering cheer. Long live! Long live the demon dragon army! The evil demon army's expression changed completely. They couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. Golden Condor Army, attack! Don't leave a single person, grass, or tree in Cloud Heaven City. Qin Chichi's voice was as cold as hell and was filled with killing intent. Chapter 484. Finally, the blood mist gradually faded. Everyone saw this hellish scene. Countless twisted corpses, countless twisted pieces of flesh. No land could be seen on the ground within dozens of miles. It was all covered in blood and corpses. The 10,000 demon wolf army were all dead. No one expected such an outcome. Not only the evil ways, but even Yang Dingtian's side did not expect such an outcome. The demon dragon army lost their killing intent, and the demon wolf army demonized. With this increase and decrease, everyone thought that the demon dragon army would be completely annihilated. Even Yang Dingtian thought that even if the demon dragon army could win, there would be incomparably huge casualties. But in the end, the demon dragon army did not suffer more than 1,000 casualties. Of course, the demon dragon army did not dare to believe such an outcome. The momentum from the beginning of the battle was really shocking. The demon wolf mounts that were injected with demon blood had their speed and strength increased by 30%. Facing the demon dragon army, they were completely overwhelming. At the moment of the fierce collision, hundreds of demon dragon warriors were sent flying by the impact. One had to know that a demon dragon mount, a knight, and armor weighed at least a few thousand pounds. But they were actually sent flying by the demon wolf mounts. It could be seen how powerful the demonized demon wolf mounts were. However, the result of being sent flying was completely unbelievable. This was because the demon wolf mounts that sent the demon dragon warriors flying had the armor on their heads shattered and their skulls exploded. It launched a ferocious attack on its own, but it suffered even more damage. The following battle was the same. The demon wolf army was incomparably ferocious. Their gigantic barbaric blade slashed at the blood demon sword. No matter how strong it was directly broken and sent flying. Even if his scimitar landed on the demon dragon warrior's armor, it would still shatter into pieces. Thus, The demonic dragon warrior once again felt how heaven-defying the demonic blood sword and the modified armor were. The weapons and armor that were modified by Yang Dingtian using tens of thousands of bloody black gold and demon spirit claws were really indestructible. Their own defensive power was also indestructible. So no matter how violent the demon wolf army was, it was useless. Under the ferocious impact, even though he could send the demon dragon warrior flying, his own skull was shattered. No matter how ferocious the slash was, it was his own broadsword that broke. As for the demon dragon warrior's blood demon sword, it could easily tear apart their armor, easily pierce their hearts, and easily chop off their heads. Therefore, even if they lost their murderous aura, even if the demon wolf army was demonized, the devil dragon army was still in a one-sided slaughter. Of course, the casualties this time were not small. There were close to 1,000 casualties. Without exception, these demonic dragons were all clawed and bitten to death by the claws of the demonic wolves. After all, the demonized demon wolf was incomparably terrifying. However, other than ramming, wild beasts were still inferior to warriors when it came to killing. Furthermore, once the demon wolf started to tear its opponent apart, regardless of whether the opponent was dead or alive, it liked to bite and not let go. It would only stop after it had swallowed over 100 kilograms of flesh. If he had the time, he would have already been beheaded by the demon dragon warriors. Just like that, the most tragic massacre took place amidst the bloody mist that soared into the sky. After that, the 10,000 demon wolves were completely wiped out, while the devil dragon army had less than 1,000 casualties. Such a result was out of everyone's expectations. The reason for such a result was, of course, the bravery and fearlessness of the devil dragon army. Most importantly, it was the modified treasured swords, armors, and armor. Perhaps it could be described in one sentence. That was science and technology, the #1 productivity. These blood demon swords, these armors. It could be said that they were all used by the top warriors, and not by the soldiers. Even the martial honorables in the world did not use such treasured swords and armors. However, Yang Dingtian's craziest investment was to equip a total of 3,500 sets. Therefore, the devil dragon army's combat strength increased tremendously. There was another piece of good news. Most of the casualties were from the demon dragon mounts and not the demon dragon warriors. This was because the demon wolves only focused on biting the demon dragon mounts and did not care about the knights on them. Therefore, after the battle ended, there was a slight delay because the demon dragon warriors wanted to pick up all the blood demon armor from the demon dragon mounts. These items were priceless. Most of the 3,000 demon dragon warriors were still around. Therefore, they only needed to wait for the World Society's demon dragon mounts to mature before they could choose. Then, the devil dragon army's combat strength would be restored. In the east, Qiu Wanjie was also completely shocked by this scene. Then, he shouted in unison, "All troops, continue to gather here and wait for orders." Yes! Hundreds of thousands of cavalrymen shouted in unison. As for Qin Wanqiu of the west, he gave the same order under Qiu Ruhan's cruel and cold gaze. All troops gathered here and were not allowed to move. Reporting to my lord, the devil dragon army awaits your orders. The remaining 2,000 demon dragon warriors gathered in formation again. However, there were already 2 warriors riding on some of the demon dragons. The 2,000 demon dragon army formed the shape of a sharp sword and pointed it at the hundreds of thousands of Evil Way's army. They had just experienced the most dangerous and desperate battle. Although every demon dragon was injured and bleeding, they were still filled with fighting spirit. As long as Yang Dingtian gave the order, they would charge towards the incomparably powerful army of Evil Ways. Song Chunhua and the others immediately looked at Yang Dingtian. The enemy's demon wolf army had already been annihilated. Therefore, it might be possible for the devil dragon army to harass the enemy's formation. At this moment, Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a ray of golden light flash past his eyes. Instantly, his heart trembled. They're here. They're finally here. The other trump card of the army of Evil Ways, the Golden Condor Army. Previously, the 800 Golden Condor Army had launched a surprise attack on Cloud Sky City. They were testing to see if Yang Dingtian had received any reinforcements from Earth Splitting City. In the end, they received a negative answer. Now that the Demon Wolf Army had been annihilated, the Demon Army's morale was low. This caused Qin Wanchou and Qiu Wanjie to continue observing. In order to turn the situation around, Qin Chichi decisively used her true trump card, the Golden Condor Army, which was absolutely suppressive. Instantly, Yang Dingtian ordered, Devil Dragon Army, listen to my order. Use the fastest speed to retreat to Cloud Sky City. His voice, which was infused with celestial qi, instantly traveled tens of miles and resounded in every corner of the battlefield. Yes, the Devil Dragon Army commander replied. Then, the 2,000 Devil Dragon Army turned around and returned to the city at lightning speed. The 100,000 soldiers on the city walls cheered loudly to welcome their heroes. Long live, long live, long live, long live, long live the Devil Dragon Army. Long live Cloud Sky City.
Suddenly,
All the cheers, which were like a tidal wave, came to an abrupt stop. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at the distant sky. Countless rays of golden light instantly illuminated the earth and pierced everyone's eyes. The sky, which was hundreds of miles away, had completely changed color. Countless whistling sounds that tore through the air could be heard, forming a storm-like roar that completely drowned out the shocking war drums of the army of evil ways. A golden cloud quickly flew over. It covered the sky and covered the sun. Originally, the sun was shining on the earth, shining on the boundless army of evil ways. However, the countless army of evil ways suddenly felt that the sky above them had darkened. The entire sky was completely covered, and even the sun's rays were completely covered. Tens of miles were covered in darkness. Hundreds of miles were covered in darkness. The endless number of golden eagle-winged cavalry blocked the sky for nearly 100 miles. Huge shadows streaked across the ground, and huge golden rays were reflected in the sky. This ray of golden light fiercely pierced into Cloud Sky City. In an instant, almost everyone squinted their eyes and almost couldn't see anything. The Golden Eagle Army that covered the sky and covered the earth flew thousands of meters in the sky. No one knew how many there were. Even Yang Dingtian and Song Chunhua were completely unable to estimate how many Golden Eagle Army there were. In short, they felt that the sky, which was hundreds of miles in front of Cloud Sky City, was completely covered. Only Qin Chichi knew the exact number. Leng Yanmei was shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Qiu Wanjie was shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Qin Wanchou was also shocked by this incomparably huge scene. Cloud Sky City. No one can save it. Even though they were 200 miles apart, Qin Wanchou and Qiu Wanjie still let out the same sigh. Qiu Ruhan sneered. Then why aren't you sending out your troops? Qin Wanchou said, it's too late to send out troops now. Qin Chichi has already destroyed Cloud Sky City with overwhelming power. I'm already prepared to bear the consequences of not moving forward. Hence, Qin Wanchou floated in the sky dejectedly and didn't give any orders. As for Qiu Wanjie, after much hesitation, he said to Wumaji, can you spare my son, Qiu Yiming's life? Sure, Wumaji said. Qiu Wanjie's face twitched violently, and he thought to himself, Yang Dingtian don't blame me. Cloud Sky City really doesn't have any hope. Then, Qiu Wanjie roared, send troops to Cloud Sky City. Instantly, the 130,000 cavalrymen started to move their hooves and galloped towards Cloud Sky City. Faster and faster. Faster and faster.
Boom, boom, boom.
The 130,000 cavalrymen of the Eastern Legion swept up a sandstorm and swept towards Cloud Sky City. Young madam, Qiu Wanjie has sent out troops, Leng Yanmei said. It's too late to send out troops now, Qin Chichi said indifferently. We won't even be able to eat leftovers. How many Golden Condor troops did we send out? Leng Yanmei asked. 30,000. Qin Chichi said. Leng Yanmei gasped and said in disbelief. It's so many. If we had sent out 30,000 Golden Condor troops just now, Cloud Sky City wouldn't have any power to resist. The Demon Wolf troops wouldn't have to be sacrificed. Qin Chichi said indifferently, the Golden Condor troops weren't sent out by us. It was Zhu Qingzhu's power. Do you understand? Instantly, Leng Yanmei understood. The evil Dao also had conflicts with each other. Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi were in charge of evil ways in the entire western region. However, the Temple of 10,000 Bloods Temple Master and Temple Master Joyless didn't respect Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi. Therefore, there weren't any Temple of 10,000 Blood and Joyless Palace troops in the punitive expedition this time. This punitive expedition against Cloud Sky City and Yongding Tian was led by Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi. However, Zhu Qingzhu had the final say in evil ways in Central State. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, Qin Chichi really didn't want to send out the Golden Condor troops. Once the Golden Condor troops were used, it was equivalent to Zhu Qingzhu's hand reaching out to the entire western region. Therefore, not only was Qin Chichi unwilling to use the Golden Condor troops, but she was also unwilling to use the Central State Expeditionary Army. However, there was no choice. Who asked the Demon Wolf troops to be too disappointing? It caused Qin Wanqiu and Xiu Wanjie to openly sit on the fence on the battlefield. Qin Chichi was helpless and could only use the Golden Condor troops. Zhu Qingzhu was arrogant, so be it. It was better than letting Yongding Tian be arrogant. At this moment, the 30,000 Golden Condor troops whizzed past the Evil Ways' army. Leng Yanmei said indifferently, Cloud Sky City is finished. However, it's a pity that the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind us won't be able to eat meat. Qin Chichi said, don't worry. Other than the 100,000 soldiers, Cloud Sky City still has more than 1 million people. Killing 200,000 to 300,000 Golden Condor troops would be enough. The remaining million would be enough for the hundreds of thousands of soldiers behind us to eat their fill. Instantly, a terrifying light burst out from Leng Yanmei's eyes. This strategy had been decided long ago. Attacking Cloud Sky City wasn't for victory or defeat, but to establish their might. Therefore, after Cloud Sky City fell, they would directly massacre the entire city. Cloud Sky City had more than 1 million people, and not a single person would be left alive. Miss, the people on top of Cloud Sky City are trembling, Leng Yanmei said with a smile. That's right. At this moment, the 100,000 soldiers on top of Cloud Sky City couldn't help but tremble. If they came from the ground, then they had the Devil Dragon Army. If they came from the sky, even if there were only a few thousand of them, then City Lord Yang and the other experts could still kill for a while on ordinary flying mounts. Even if a few thousand Golden Condor troops charged into the city, although there would be huge losses, it wouldn't be a destructive blow. If the 30,000 Golden Condor troops entered the city, it would undoubtedly be destructive. The 100,000 soldiers on top of the city wall would undoubtedly be wiped out. Therefore, although the army on top of Cloud Sky City knew that they shouldn't be afraid and tremble, they still couldn't help but be afraid and tremble. The Golden Condor troops that blotted out the sky and covered the earth were getting closer and closer. As the sun was setting in the west, the sky above Cloud Sky City was already shrouded in shadows, just as everyone in Cloud Sky City was in complete despair. Suddenly, an even more violent whistling sound came from behind. The whistling sound that tore through the air brought about an incomparably huge speed impact. Everyone couldn't help but turn around to look. Instantly, they saw a scene that made their blood boil. Countless huge and mighty black flying mounts were like giant spirit beasts, whistling and stopping at a low altitude. 1,000 Demon Condor troops quickly flew out of Big Cloud Sky Mountain, flying at a low altitude at a speed of 500 kilometers per hour. Even though this would cause a huge sound, a huge whirlwind would blow, and all the tents in the city would be blown down. But when everyone in the city saw the Demon Condor troops whistling through the sky, they were first completely stunned, then they let out a cry of ecstasy. Immediately after, countless people on the ground madly chased after these countless black spirits. The Golden Condor troops were less than 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. At this moment, from Qin Chi-Chi's vision, she saw Yang Dingtian, riding an incomparably huge demon condor king, slowly rising into the sky. Whoosh! Then, this demon condor king, facing the 30,000 golden condor troops, quickly rushed into the sky. Leng Yanmei laughed out loud and said, Yang Dingtian a few days ago, 1 horse against 800. He borrowed the power of the lightning in the sky to avoid the disaster of Cloud Sky City. Today, he still wants to fight against 30,000 with 1 horse? Unfortunately, there are no dark clouds in the sky, and the sky is clear. Qin Chi-Chi said indifferently, this person is a lunatic, a stupid lunatic.
Whoosh!
In Cloud Sky City, a man and a horse whistled through the sky, charging towards the 30,000 golden condor troops with lightning speed. Immediately, when the army of Evil Ways saw this scene, they all let out a huge ridicule. Immediately after, their ridicule was swallowed. The second black shadow, the third black shadow, fourth, fifth, sixth, dozens, hundreds, thousands in the end, countless black shadows suddenly drilled out from behind the Cloud Sky City wall and rushed into the sky. Finally, 1,000 meters in the air, they arranged into a square formation and whistled towards the 30,000 golden condor troops. Each demon condor was twice as fast as the golden condor flying mount. The flying speed of each demon condor flying mount was nearly twice as fast as the golden condor army. The crazily charging demon condor army's speed reached 1,000 miles per hour. The whistling sound of tearing through the air was not something that a flying mount could have. This sound was almost exactly the same as the fighter jets of the Earth era. That kind of whistling impact was unparalleled. Leng Yanmei's face was pale, and she muttered to herself, impossible. This is impossible. How is this possible? Didn't they say that Cloud Sky City doesn't have a demon condor army? In the mobile palace where Qin Chi-Chi was, the air suddenly turned cold. Yang Dingtian, this madman, this cunning madman, he obviously has the demon condor army, but he hid it and risked his life to fight against my 800 golden condor army, with 1 man and 1 mount. This cunning madman, just for this moment, Qin Chi-Chi hissed. Miss, the demon condor army, at most, will not exceed 1,000. We have 30,000, can we fight? Leng Yanmei asked. 30,000 against 1,000, if we can't win, the eagle nest should not exist. Qin Chi-Chi said coldly. Suddenly, a sharp bone whistle came from the air. Suddenly, the 30,000 golden condor army in the air all changed formation. From a flat surface, it became 3-dimensional. Falling from above, layer upon layer, 3-dimensional. The 30,000 golden condor army turned into an incomparably huge devil's mouth in the air, swallowing towards the demon condor army of 1,000. This was an incomparably spectacular scene. In the thousands of years of Earth's history, it was impossible to see such a big scene. The air battle of tens of thousands of air forces. 1,000 demon condor army condensed into a sharp arrow and shot out fiercely. The 30,000 golden condor army condensed into a huge devil's mouth, growing bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. The devil formed by the 30,000 golden condor army was tens of thousands of meters tall and tens of thousands of meters wide, like a giant beast swallowing the sky. Whoosh!
Whoosh!
In an instant, the black arrow formed by the demon condor army shot into the huge devil's mouth. The devil's mouth formed by the 30,000 golden condor army suddenly closed. Suddenly, the demon condor army completely disappeared, completely swallowed by the 30,000 golden condor army. Then, the devil's formation formed by the 30,000 golden condor army kept shrinking and condensing. This kind of shrinking, this kind of condensation, of course, was to crush the demon condor army alive and tear it apart. Looking at the ancient wonder in the sky, Qin Wanchou said lightly, Yang Dingtian, you are too conceited. You actually crashed into the devil's formation. Once the air forces are surrounded, they will definitely die. The Devil's Formation formed by the 30,000 Golden Condor army became more and more condensed, more and more condensed. In the end, the 30,000 were almost completely squeezed together, from a diameter of tens of thousands of meters to a diameter of a few thousand meters. Although at this time, the most tragic battle was happening in the air. However, no feathers fell, no corpses fell, and no blood sputtered. The entire battle took place at the core of the Devil's Formation. The entire battle was surrounded by countless Golden Condor army layer by layer. Everyone was burning with anxiety, waiting for the result of the battle.
Boom.
Suddenly, there was a loud noise. A black sharp sword suddenly pierced out of the Devil's Formation. Then, countless golden condors, like startled birds, suddenly flew in all directions. In an instant, from a diameter of a few thousand meters, they instantly covered tens of thousands of meters.
Then,
it was countless feathers, countless blood, and countless corpses. Like raindrops, they fell like a storm. It was impossible to count how many corpses, how much minced meat, and all the blood. In the hundreds of thousands of troops of evil ways, it was as if there was a scarlet rain of blood. Countless fresh blood sprinkled on the bodies of everyone in the army of evil ways. Countless feathers, like golden snow, fell one after another. Countless golden condor corpses and golden condor warriors' corpses, like a meteor shower, fell one after another. More than 1,000 demon condor army were swallowed alive by the Devil's Formation formed by 30,000 golden condors. They were surrounded, however, in the three-dimensional encirclement, inside the Devil's mouth. More than 1,000 demon condor army held brand new blood demon swords in their hands. They carried out a crazy massacre. That's right. On average, each demon condor was surrounded by dozens of golden condors. However, it was useless. 1,000 golden condors were all gathered together, as if they were whole. Around them, there were only a few thousand golden condors fighting in close quarters. From top to bottom, left to right, from all directions, they attacked in three-dimensional. However, the demon condor army was also fighting in three-dimensional, because the demon condor army formed a sharp arrow formation. Not every demon condor was facing in one direction. Their sharp swords and claws were also in front, back, left, and right in all directions. Just like that, at the core of the Devil's Formation, the demon condor army and the golden condor army carried out the craziest battle. Here, the golden condor army's numerical advantage was suppressed to the minimum. At any moment, the 1,000 demon condor army's opponents were not more than 5,000 golden condor army's opponents. 1,000 versus 5,000. The demon condor army was completely a one-sided massacre. Each demon condor's strength, speed, tenacity, and agility were more than twice that of the golden condors. Yang Dingtian's demon condor king used the whirlwind wing slash that day and killed a total of 200 golden condors. Of course, not every demon condor had the cultivation of a martial venerable. However, any demon condor could easily fight 5 golden condors alone and not be defeated. Therefore, in the Devil's Formation, they once again faced a one-sided massacre, killing all 5,000 golden condors. Immediately, another 5,000 golden condors surrounded them. Then, they killed another 5,000 golden condors. However, because of the dense Devil's Formation, not to mention corpses, even feathers and blood could not sputter out. Wave after wave, they killed them all. After killing a total of 4 waves, when more than 50,000 golden condors were killed, the golden condor army finally collapsed. Moreover, the Devil's Formation could not be maintained. In an instant, the entire Devil's Formation collapsed. The remaining less than 10,000 golden condors were also scared out of their wits. They flew in all directions and fled frantically. All of a sudden, everyone was stunned. Previously, the 3,500 Demon Dragon Army had fought against the 25,000 Demon Wolf Army. Cloud Sky City had obtained an overwhelming victory and slaughtered the enemy. Their casualties were less than 30%. This had already caused Cloud Sky City to be in an uproar and shocked everyone. At this moment, the 1,000 Demon Condor army had obtained results that were even more glorious than the 3,500 Demon Dragon army. Even with a 30 times difference in numbers, it was still a one-sided massacre. Looking at the Golden Condor army that was fleeing in all directions, Yang Dingtian suddenly ordered, "Whirlwind Wing / activate." Suddenly, everyone in the air saw an incomparably stunning and shocking scene. 1,000 demon condors formed a sharp blade. Then, all the demon condors whistled as they flew and spun crazily. The huge wings that were dozens of meters long were as hard as iron. They were like huge sharp blades as they spun crazily. The 1,000 demon condors turned into an incomparably huge sharp blade as they chased after the fleeing golden condors. They had completely turned into a huge killing machine under the rapid rotation of the 1,000 steel blade wings. Wherever they passed, countless golden condors died without a complete corpse. They were instantly minced into meat paste. Suddenly, countless golden feathers flew down like a snowstorm. Countless fresh blood and meat paste splattered on the ground. However, there were no complete corpses that fell. The golden condors that were slaughtered by the whirlwind / had all died without a complete corpse. It was an incomparably stunning scene. The demon condor army, as the king of the sky, could even do such a stunning and even romantic massacre. The huge wings spun like a windmill, but what they brought was a bloody light that soared into the sky. Whirlwind Wing / In an instant, more than 60% of the 10,000 golden condor army that were fleeing were slaughtered. There was no other way. The demon condor army's flying speed was too fast. Even if they kept spinning their wings, their flying speed was not inferior to the golden condor army. At this moment, the remaining few thousand golden condor army had scattered in all directions. They were already very scattered. "Spread out and kill them one by one," Yang Dingtian ordered. Yes. Immediately, the 1,000 demon condor army suddenly spread out. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Like a fighter jet, each demon condor, with itself as a unit, quickly chased after the fleeing golden condor army. The demon condor army's full speed was twice that of the golden condors. Therefore, the pitiful golden condor army was almost instantly caught up. And these demon condors seemed to have not had enough. Once they caught up, they would definitely not use their weapons. They would directly use another whirlwind / Then, the pitiful golden condor only had time to let out a scream. Immediately after, it was immediately twisted into a pile of mud. Just like that, the remaining golden condor flying cavalry quickly disappeared and were quickly slaughtered. Of course, some people might say, why not capture them? The remaining few thousand golden condors would be captured, and Cloud Sky City would have its own flying cavalry army. Capturing them was fine, but it was impossible to take them for oneself. Even if they died, the golden condor flying cavalry would not be controlled by Cloud Sky City. They were demon beasts, not humans. Humans would betray, but demon beasts would almost never betray. Looking at the golden condor army in the sky, there were fewer and fewer. Qin Chi felt a chill all over her body. Her wisdom was as deep as the sea, but she had never thought of this result. The two trump cards of the demon army were actually completely wiped out under the small Cloud Sky City. The 25,000 demon wolf army was enough to destroy Cloud Sky City dozens of times. She did not expect that in front of the 3,500 demon dragon army, they would be completely wiped out. The 30,000 golden condor army was enough to destroy Cloud Sky City hundreds of times. She did not expect that in front of the 1,000 demon condor army, they would still be completely wiped out. Qin Chi only felt a towering anger that wanted to burn her to ashes. She also wanted to completely burn the entire Cloud Sky City to ashes. She took a deep breath. Qin Chi said indifferently, "All right, let's not play games." 10,000 crystal crossbow cavalry army split up on both sides and defend against the enemy's demon dragon army and demon condor army. As long as the demon condor army is 100 feet away from the ground, immediately fire. If you see any demon dragon army in your field of vision, immediately fire. Yes. 100,000 beast cavalry, 500,000 infantry, set off and flatten Cloud Sky cities. Qin Shi Chi gave the order. Countless war drums sounded. Countless bugles sounded. Then, the 600,000 troops of the Evil Way set off again and headed towards Cloud Sky City. 3,000 catapults ready, 3 miles away from Cloud Sky City. Fire. 5,000 large-sized crystal crossbows ready, 2 miles away from Cloud Sky City. Fire. In the air, Yang Dingtian saw the hundreds of thousands of troops of the Evil Way set off. The decisive battle has finally arrived. Cloud Sky City's absolute secret weapon has also revealed itself. Bloodthirsty. Chapter 485. After the 10,000 crystal crossbow beasts and 5,000 large crystal crossbows of the demon army were lifted, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Killing weapons that could destroy heaven and earth. It was an absolute weapon of mass destruction, enough to destroy Cloud Sky City several times over. When the Golden Eagle army was destroyed, Qiu Wanjia's cavalry had already slowed down and was about to stop. After seeing these killing weapons, Qiu Wanjia immediately gave the order to advance at full speed and attack Cloud Sky City. After killing all the Golden Eagle army, Yang Dingtian led the Demon Eagle army and didn't return to Cloud Sky City immediately. Instead, they continued to hover in the sky. At this moment, the Demon Eagle army's air force had been completely wiped out. They didn't have any power left to threaten the Demon Eagle army. As long as they didn't get close to the ground, the Demon Eagle army's crystal crossbows wouldn't be able to threaten the Demon Eagle army. Just like this, Yang Dingtian hovered in the sky and looked down at the Evil Way's army that was advancing towards Cloud Sky City. This scene was really shocking. An army of 600,000. Among them, there were hundreds of thousands of various beast cavalry that were spread out on both sides of the army and slowly advanced. In the middle, there were 500,000 soldiers of various kinds. About 400,000 soldiers of the barbarian race. Hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers of various forces. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers marched towards Cloud Sky City in an orderly manner, trampling on the dust that filled the sky. Yang Dingtian flew back and forth in the sky above the army. Previously, it was already shocking enough when he saw it from Cloud Sky City's walls. Now that he was hovering in the sky, it was even more shocking. This was a scene that had never been seen before. The army that spanned dozens of miles was like a giant beast and also like a black cloud that covered the ground. It was shocking as it advanced. The first battle was a battle of cavalry. The second battle was a battle of air forces. Yang Dingtian obtained a glorious victory. Of course, it was because of the strength of the Demon Dragon army and the Demon Eagle army, as well as the Blood Demon sword and Blood Demon armor. Another reason was Qin Shi Chi and Ning Wuming's arrogance and conceit. For example, half of the 25,000 soldiers of the Demon Wolf army were sent to attack Cloud Sky City instead of the Demon Dragon army. In that case, the 100,000 soldiers of Cloud Sky City would not be able to resist at all. Without a doubt, it would be a fatal blow to Cloud Sky City. Even the 3,500 members of the Devil Dragon army would find it difficult to defend against the Demon Wolf army that was 8 times their size. However, Qin Shi Chi didn't do that. She wanted the 25,000 Demon Wolf army to wipe out the Devil Dragon army before attacking Cloud Heaven City. In the end, the entire Demonic Wolf army was annihilated. The second time, the 30,000 Golden Condor Legion. He could also send 10,000 of them to destroy the Demon Condor army and the other 20,000 to attack Cloud Sky City. However, Qin Shi Chi still did not do that. Instead, she chose to let the Golden Condor army surround the Demon Condor army. An unprecedented aerial battle took place in the air. Of course, it wasn't that Qin Shi Chi and Ning Wuming weren't stupid enough to make such a fatal mistake. On the contrary, this pair was very smart, at least much smarter than Yang Dingtian. The reason for such a mistake was because of their pride and conceit, as well as their strategic direction. They felt that it would be a piece of cake to destroy a small city like Cloud Sky City. With just a light puff of air, it would be completely crushed. Their strategic direction was not to defeat Cloud Sky City at all. Instead, they would use the power of the universe to completely crush and shatter it. With an aura that could destroy heaven and earth, they would sweep across in an instant. What they pursued was not killing, but a one-sided destruction. Only in this way could they cause a huge shock to the entire world and make all the forces in the world surrender and not dare to act rashly. Therefore, when the Demon Dragon Army appeared, they only had one goal, and that was to completely destroy the Demon Dragon Army. When the Demon Condor Army appeared, they also only had one goal, and that was to completely destroy the Demon Condor Army. They completely pursued a one-sided scene and divided their forces to attack Cloud Sky City's walls. Don't joke around. Cloud Sky City's walls were the weakest. They could attack anytime. However, they never dreamed that the Demon Wolf Army that was 10 times stronger than them, the Golden Condor Legion, would be completely annihilated. Therefore, Chin-Chi-Chi was completely enraged. They were completely forced to the edge of the cliff. Next, they could no longer play any tricks. They had to use a serious attitude to destroy Cloud Sky City. Therefore, the hundreds of thousands of troops immediately became solemn. The huge beast mounts on both sides carried medium-sized crystal crossbows to defend against the Demon Condor Army and the Demon Dragon Army. With 10,000 medium-sized crystal crossbows, as long as Yang Dingtian did not go crazy, he would definitely not dare to let the Demon Condor Army and the Demon Dragon Army collide with them. That was definitely a path to death. Yang Dingtian had already tasted the power of the crystal crossbows. In Sky Thunder City, less than 1,000 crystal crossbow warriors had already caused fatal losses to the Demon Dragon Army. At this moment, not to mention 10,000 medium-sized crystal crossbows. Whether it was the Demon Condor Army or the Demon Dragon Army that rushed forward, they would definitely be killed by the torrential rain of arrows. It was ridiculous to say that if the army of evil ways was willing to put down their grudges, if they put the medium-sized crystal crossbows on the back of the Golden Condor Army, then it would be the Demon Condor Army that would be completely annihilated. Unfortunately, Chin-Chi-Chi did not want to let Zhu Qingzhu off so easily. She firmly believed that Cloud Sky City did not have an air force. Thirdly, she was unwilling to sacrifice the speed advantage of the Golden Condor Army. Therefore, she directly sent out 30,000 Golden Condors. In the end, they were all killed. Yang Dingtian constantly hovered above the hundreds of thousands of demons. He did not find any opportunities. Although the 10,000 crystal crossbow beasts were slow, they blocked off any sneak attacks in the air or on the ground. At the front of the army, powerful and ferocious beasts dragged 3,000 trebuchets and 5,000 large crystal crossbows forward. 3,000 trebuchets and 5,000 large crystal crossbows? These two forces were enough to completely smash Cloud Sky City into ruins. Return to the city. Yang Dingtian, who could not find any opportunities, ordered. Immediately, the 1,000 Demon Condor Army whistled back to Cloud Sky City. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers continued to approach, and approach. 2 hours later, 3,000 trebuchets had already reached 3 miles in front of Cloud Sky City. The army continued to advance. All the trebuchets were surrounded by the hundreds of thousands of soldiers. After another 15 minutes, the 5,000 large crystal crossbows had also reached 2 miles in front of Cloud Sky City. Once the giant crystal crossbows and trebuchets were assembled, Cloud Sky City would face a destructive attack. Chin-Chi-Chi said indifferently, "Everything is finally over. It's a pity that the show before was too ugly." Then, Chin-Chi-Chi ordered, "Originally, I did not intend to kill Yang Dingtian's woman and wanted to take her as my concubine. Now I have changed my mind. Yang Dingtian made me look bad, so I will make him feel bad. After capturing Qin Jiaojiao, let 100 barbarians explode her. Then, execute her in front of everyone. Consider it a punishment for Qin Wanchou." "Yes," Leng Yan said. The Eastern Army was currently 50 miles away from Cloud Sky City. After seeing the 10,000 medium crystal crossbows, 5,000 large crystal crossbows, and 3,000 trebuchets, Qin Wanqiu did not care. He urged the hundreds of thousands of soldiers to charge towards Cloud Sky City in an attempt to reverse the unfavorable situation of the divine weapons manor. When the Western army's Qin Wanqiu saw these killing machines, he sighed softly. Qin Chichi schemed to exterminate Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian is powerless to reverse the situation. What Demon Wolf Army? What Golden Eagle Army? They are all inferior to the crystal crossbows and infantry. All right, as you wish, Qin Wanqiu said indifferently to Qiu Ruhan. Then, Qin Wanqiu ordered loudly, "Advance. Charge towards Cloud Sky City. Advance courageously, and do not stop." Qin Wanqiu finally gave the most resolute order. The army of 150,000 charged towards Cloud Sky City at full speed. There was no chance for them to turn back or stop. Lady, Qin Wanqiu has also made his move. He is charging towards Cloud Sky City at full speed. Leng Yan said. Late, it is a little late. There will still be punishment in the future, but it is better than stubbornly resisting until the end, Qin Chichi said. On Cloud Sky City's walls. City Lord, Qin Wanqiu's Western Army and Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Army are advancing at full speed, Zhao Liao said indifferently. Got it. Yang Dingtian said, they are frightened by the 3,000 trebuchets, 5,000 large crystal crossbows, and 10,000 crystal crossbow beast riders. The key is the 10,000 crossbow beast riders. Otherwise, there is no need for the Demon Eagle Army. Just the Demon Dragon Army alone is enough to destroy the trebuchets and large crystal crossbows, Qin Huaiyu said. All troops stop. Qin Chichi ordered. Immediately, the stop signal drum was sounded.
Bang.
There was a loud sound. Evil Way's 600,000 troops stopped. They were 2 miles away from Cloud Sky City. The entire Cloud Sky City was completely surrounded. Assemble the trebuchets and the large crystal crossbows. Smash Cloud Sky City into ruins. Qin Chichi ordered coldly. Then, the signal drum sounded. A few hundred small-winged cavalry warriors flew towards the front to convey Qin Chichi's order. Immediately, tens of thousands of people began to move. They began to assemble the trebuchets and the large crystal crossbows. Once they were done, Cloud Sky City would be completely destroyed. Advance. Full speed ahead. Qin Wanqiu shouted. We must reach Cloud Sky City before it is destroyed. We must be the first to charge into Cloud Sky City. Only by rushing into Cloud Sky City before the infantrymen would the evil ways be punished in the future. It would also be lighter.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Countless war drums sounded. 3,000 large trebuchets were gradually assembled into giant beasts that were more than 10 meters tall. These trebuchets could throw boulders that weighed more than 1,000 kilograms a few miles away. The large crystal crossbows were gradually assembled into large killing machines that were close to 10 meters wide and tens of thousands of kilograms heavy. These large crossbows could shoot more than 10 giant arrows 1,000 meters away. Each arrow weighed more than 10 kilograms and could even pierce through Cloud Sky City's walls. 3,000 large trebuchets were lined up, spanning dozens of miles. 5,000 large crystal crossbows were lined up, spanning dozens of miles. This was definitely a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Cloud Sky City would not be able to withstand even 10 waves of attacks. When Yang Dingtian saw these killing machines, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Evil Ways had really invested a lot of capital. These killing machines were more than enough to attack 10 Cloud Sky Cities. Yang Dingtian asked Shimenlai, are the secret killing machines ready?
They are all ready.
120 miles of city walls with a total of 530 fortresses. Each fortress has 4 shooting holes. Each fortress has 400 magic balls of various types. Shimenlai said,
Good.
After half a year of accumulation, I can finally release them all today. Yang Dingtian said loudly, I want to see if my secret weapon is the killing machine or the evil ways crystal crossbows and trebuchets are the killing machines. Yang Dingtian flew into the sky. He flew along the city walls from west to east. Everyone, remember today? Today, we will make histories. Once our weapons appear, the world will be shocked. Open. Yang Dingtian abruptly gave an order. Open. Instantly, thousands of people shouted in unison. Whoosh! On the city walls, the black curtains on the 500 fortresses shooting holes were neatly opened. Evil Wei's army, Xiao Wanjie and Qin Wanzhou all opened their eyes wide and looked at what Yang Dingtian had blown into the sky. What exactly was it? Whoosh! After the curtains were opened, a cold and dark aura suddenly emerged. 2,000 huge cannons were facing the army of hundreds of thousands of demons. What was Yang Dingtian's secret killing machine? Of course, it was the cannons. When Yang Dingtian was destroying the pirates, he had used primitive trebuchets to deliver primitive gunpowder packs. After becoming the Cloud Heaven City Lord, the first thing Yang Dingtian did was to order Shimin Lai to secretly manufacture higher-grade gunpowder and cannons. Of course, these cannons were originally meant to deal with Qin Chichi's army of 100,000. It was also meant to defend Cloud Sky City. Therefore, he originally planned to only make about 100 cannons. Because, in his impression, when technology was not advanced, it was very difficult to make cannons. During the Ming Dynasty, the entire country only managed to make about 100 cannons. Because the forging process at that time was too primitive. In the end, Yang Dingtian made a mistake based on his experience. In ancient China, it was difficult to make cannons, but in the chaotic continent, it was a simple matter. In ancient China, the most difficult thing was to make qualified steel. In the chaotic continent, basically all the metals that were forged surpassed the steel of Earth. Therefore, the materials for cannons were almost endless. Therefore, even if these cannons were a little bumpy, they would not explode. In ancient China, the most difficult thing was to form cannons. Here, as long as the molten iron was poured into the mold, it would be done. Next, a little polishing would be enough. Therefore, the creation of cannons became extremely simple in the special martial arts civilization of the chaotic world and in special minerals. But even so, Yang Dingtian only ordered the production of 200 cannons. Later, when he knew that the million-strong army was about to attack Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian ordered the production to increase again and produce 2,000 cannons. At this time, there were already tens of thousands of people in the underground forging factory of Cloud Sky City. In the special environment of the chaotic world, 2,000 cannons were not difficult at all. In ancient China, special craftsmen were needed. Here, as long as there was a leader, a person, and a rigid work, they could make cannons. Moreover, Yang Dingtian had 4 mystic fire warriors and 2 heaven and earth mystic fires. Therefore, in the end, he actually used the mystic fire to polish and bombard the cannons. This caused the quality of the cannons to increase by several levels. They were even more elite than the cannons of the Earth era. Later, Yang Dingtian even used the mystic fire to draw a rifling in the cannons. In the Earth era, there was a huge problem with cannons, which was that they were too heavy and difficult to transport. Therefore, Yang Dingtian also hesitated about how big the cannons should be. Considering that the materials were sufficient and the production was simple, Yang Dingtian directly ordered the production of 5,000 catty cannons, which was already larger than the conventional cannons of the Earth era. Later, the Devil Dragon Army came. This overlord of the land could carry tens of thousands of catties. Yang Dingtian simply changed the order and doubled the size of the cannons. Therefore, he knew that the cannons were more than 10,000 catties. This was already larger than most of the ancient Longsong cannons of the Earth. The length of the cannons had already reached 7 or 8 meters. The cannonballs fired had also exceeded 30 catties. As for the gunpowder, Yang Dingtian no longer chose the most primitive black gunpowder because it was too easy to imitate. Yang Dingtian chose a higher level of gunpowder, which at least needed to be made through simple chemical processes. This way, it was almost impossible to imitate in the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian's knowledge of gunpowder was very limited, so even if the gunpowder was of a higher level, the power was not strong enough. Who knew, with the help of the secret masters, various crystal powders and special medicinal liquids were added. It actually increased the power of the gunpowder by several times, even 10 times. In this way, the gunpowder that Yang Dingtian had was not inferior to the high-level gunpowder of the earth, and its lethality was extremely shocking. Of course, making gunpowder was very dangerous. But in the chaotic world, there was no problem. Yang Dingtian got a large pool of unfreezing water. The final mixing of the gunpowder was completed in the unfreezing water. In an extremely cold environment, the gunpowder could not explode at all. Moreover, the unfreezing water had a heaven-defying function, which was that the gunpowder would not get wet. In the end, with tens of thousands of people working in the underground forging factory and Qin Mingli's astronomical number of materials, Yang Dingtian produced hundreds of thousands of cannonballs. Of course, the most important bottleneck was the production of gunpowder. Qin Minli selected 100 people to specialize in the production of gunpowder. These 100 people would always live underground, and it was absolutely confidential. However, the production of gunpowder was still not high. Fortunately, the production of gunpowder had started half a year ago and had not stopped. Otherwise, with just this 1 month, 100 people would not be able to produce the gunpowder needed for hundreds of thousands of cannonballs. The Devil Dragon Army and the Devil Vulture Army were already shocking enough, but that was only a preview. It was a performance that truly belonged to Yang Dingtian, a performance that truly belonged to Cloud Sky City. Now, with these 2,000 huge cannons and these hundreds of thousands of cannonballs, after the 2,000 cannons were opened, the hundreds of thousands of Evil Way's army was shocked, then they laughed loudly. With these broken iron pipes? Killing the Evil Way's army? Was this a dream? Was Yang Dingtian crazy? When Qin Chichi saw these iron pipes, she could not help but be stunned. She shook her head and said, "Is Yang Dingtian crazy? What kind of bullshit is this?" When Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie saw these things, the first thing that came to their minds was Yang Dingtian crazy? These iron pipes were stupid and heavy. What was the use of them? Even Cloud Sky City's army felt that these stupid iron pipes were useless. After Qin Chichi laughed, she said indifferently, after equipping them, "Prepare to attack and destroy Cloud Sky City." Creak! Amidst the terrifying sounds, the 5,000 huge crystal crossbows were pulled by dozens of people and started to open. The huge trebuchets started to be pulled down forcefully. A destructive attack on Cloud Sky City was about to begin. Yang Dingtian looked at the large crystal crossbows and trebuchets that were dozens of miles away. "You won't have any chance to fire." Yang Dingtian flew in the air and slowly raised his hand. The chaotic world will remember today. Cloud Sky City will create history. Cloud Sky City will shock the world. Then, Yang Dingtian fiercely waved his sword. Fire! In an instant, an earth-shattering roar sounded. Countless fire dragons rushed into the sky. Chapter 486. 2,000 cannons roared in unison. Countless fire dragons suddenly drilled out. Suddenly, a deafening sound rang out, completely suppressing the ear-splitting war drums of the evil demon army. The terrifying explosion was like a clap of thunder, causing the entire place to tremble violently. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 2,000 huge cannonballs tore through the air and flew out of the Cloud Sky City wall with a series of sonic booms. All the Evil Way's army was completely stunned at this moment. They didn't even know what it was that shot out. In just a second, 2,000 cannonballs formed a metal storm that fiercely smashed into the large catapults, the large crystal ballistae, and the Evil Path's army.
Boom, boom, boom.
Then, the cannonballs exploded with earth-shattering sounds. In an instant, the light of the sun was completely blocked. The flames of the explosion almost blinded people's eyes. This earth-shattering sound made countless demon army cover their ears in pain. Their eardrums were pierced, and blood flowed out. This earth-shattering sound and explosion caused the entire ground to tremble. The beast cavalry dragging the medium-sized crystal crossbows could no longer control themselves. They were frantically frightened and ran in all directions. But this was nothing. The most terrifying thing was these cannonballs, the flames at the moment of explosion, the terrifying power at the moment of explosion. In an instant, the huge and sturdy crystal crossbows were torn into pieces. The even larger catapults were like children's toys. They were instantly shattered and thrown into the air. That's right, Yang Dingtian used exploding bombs. Coupled with the chaotic world's secret medicine and crystal powder, the power was endless. Each cannonball contained dozens of kilograms of explosives. Once it exploded, everything within dozens of meters would be smashed into pieces. Of course, Cloud Sky City didn't have professional cannoneers. And for the sake of confidentiality, the shooting training ground was located deep in the mountains. Thousands of cannoneers, each of them didn't train more than a few dozen rounds. Moreover, Yang Dingtian didn't know how to shoot cannoneers himself, so they had to rely on themselves to figure it out. Therefore, these cannoneers weren't very professional. However, the situation in front of them was too easy to shoot. They didn't even need to aim. The catapults were spread out for dozens of miles. The giant crystal ballistae were spread out dozens of kilometers wide. It could really be said that he could hit him even with his eyes closed. The most difficult part of this blossom bomb was how to make it explode after hitting the ground. It shouldn't explode midway, and it shouldn't explode as soon as it was launched. As for this, Yang Dingtian's pitiful knowledge of science and technology would not be able to do it. Even when it came to the construction of cannons, he only proposed a theory and drew a model. In the end, the final shape of the cannons was created by the craftsmen themselves. There was no way Yang Dingtian could make the cannonball explode when it hit the bottom. Therefore, in the beginning, Yang Dingtian planned to directly make solid bullets. This way, although the lethality would be much weaker, at least it would not be dangerous. In the end, this problem was solved by the mystics of the chaos world. How did he solve it? It was very simple. It was a special crystal. When the cannonball landed on the ground or hit the target, it would cause an intense impact. Using this kind of impact, the crystal would first cause a small explosion, which would then detonate the dozens of kilograms of gunpowder in the bomb. Of course, another problem arose. The moment the cannonball was fired, there would also be an intense vibration. Would it cause the cannonball to explode prematurely? Regarding this point, the mystics solved it after a long period of experimentation. Of course, Yang Dingtian did not know how to solve the problem in the field of mystics, but it seemed to be some kind of blocking method between the crystals. The first vibration when the cannonball was fired would cause the crystals to break through this barrier. Another intense impact would cause the explosion. In short, with the contributions of Qin Mingli's team of mystics, they successfully created a safe cannonball. Therefore, there was the earth-shattering result before their eyes. Boom, 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 boom. Nearly 2,000 cannonballs exploded at the same time. This was a super big scene on Earth. One must know that in the Battle of Upper Gonling during the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea, the United Nations Army only deployed a few hundred cannons. When nearly 2,000 cannonballs exploded at the same time, it was really earth-shattering. One could only see that the area within dozens of kilometers was instantly engulfed by flames and smoke. Then, nothing could be seen. Countless giant crystal crossbows were smashed into pieces. Countless large trebuchets were smashed into pieces. Countless barbarian troops were instantly blasted into mincemeat. The beast riders of the demon army threw off the riders on their bodies and ran away crazily. Even an army of hundreds of thousands was surging like a tide. The troops closest to the cannonballs were not killed by the explosion. Instead, they were shaken to death. The flames dissipated. The smoke was slightly thinner. Then, everyone saw a hellish scene. Most of the giant crystal crossbows were already shattered. Most of the large trebuchets were already smashed into pieces. The barbarian troops around them were all turned into minced meat. Of course, nearly half of these weapons of mass destruction could still be used. However, The ground within dozens of kilometers had been completely turned into ruins. Almost all the people inside were dead, and no one would use them. All the Evil Ways' army was deathly silent at first. Then, they suddenly exploded and fled crazily to the back. Qin did not walk out of the palace. But the entire palace was shaking. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Lung Yanmei looked as if she had seen a ghost. Her entire body was trembling as she looked at this scene in disbelief. And the most shocked ones were undoubtedly the army on the city walls of Cloud Sky City. They stood at a high place and saw it the clearest. God? City Lord Yang's secret weapon was actually so heaven-defying and powerful. Not only were they trembling, but they also felt their hair stand on end. Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, and Zhu Hongxue looked at Yang Dingtian with infinite shock and admiration. Sect Master, we are really going to shock the world. We are really going to make history. Suppressing all the shock, but unable to suppress the shock in her eyes, Qin Chichi slowly walked out of the mobile palace. Her entire body was covered in a purple cloak. She ordered indifferently, "Let the Ning clan's troops begin to maintain order. Blow the bewitching horn. All the troops, advance at full speed and attack Cloud Sky City, regardless of life and death. All those who retreat will die."
Yes.
Whoa! Suddenly, the army of Evil Ways suddenly sounded a strange horn that was filled with the power of demonic souls. In an instant, the hundreds of thousands of barbarian troops that had been injected with special medicine gradually lost the fear in their eyes. What replaced it was a daze. Then, like walking corpses, they gathered together again.
Boom.
Then, in the midst of the earth-shattering war drums, hundreds of thousands of troops began to advance towards Cloud Sky City, like a tide. Yang Dingtian looked at the army of demons that was like a tide. There were more than 600,000 of them, and they covered the sky and covered the earth as they rushed towards Cloud Sky City. Full-speed cannon fire, Yang Dingtian suddenly ordered. Yes, full-speed cannon fire. Then, the 2,000 cannons were divided into 4 parts. Every time, 500 cannons fired without stopping. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, a truly earth-shattering scene completely unfolded. Under the influence of medicine and evil techniques, the army of demons was like walking corpses, charging towards Cloud Sky City, without fear of death. And the 2,000 cannons of Cloud Sky City were divided into 4 parts, firing without stopping. Every time, 500 cannons were like a steel tide, crazily smashing over. There was no need to aim at all. When the cannons fell into the dense army of demons, they exploded violently. In an instant, there was a rain of flesh and blood. Countless demons were instantly smashed into pieces. If it were the ancient cannons on Earth, the firing speed would be much slower. Just cleaning the barrel alone would take a long time. Moreover, there was the danger of the barrel exploding at any time. But here, the barrel only needed to be cleaned a little. As for the barrel exploding, there was no need to care at all. In fact, Cloud Sky City had done an experiment. They let a cannon fire continuously for a few hours without exploding. In the end, they really lost patience and gave up on the experiment. After all, the metal here was astonishing. The cannons that were tempered with mystic fire were also astonishing. However, the cooling of the cannons still had to be done. Therefore, the firing process became very simple. Insert the gunpowder cannon, then insert the cannons and ignite the fuse.
Boom.
The cannons fired, and the cannons were fired. Then, the cannons were quickly cleaned and cooled. Then, the cannons were fired again. Just like that, the 2,000 cannons fired without stopping, crazily throwing countless cannons. It was a crazy massacre. It was even crazier than the previous 2 battles. The dozens of miles in front of Cloud Sky City were instantly engulfed by endless flames, smoke, and blood. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cannons. They exploded crazily in the demon army. These walking corpses were completely unafraid of death. They kept moving forward, forward, and forward. Then, in the terrifying explosion, They were instantly smashed into pieces and turned into flesh and blood. Just like that, in the crazy massacre, the formation of the Evil Way's army was almost wiped out piece by piece. Just like that, under Chin-Chi-Chi's cold and vicious will, the demon army was crazily massacred. The demon army had to pay an astronomical price for every 10 meters they advanced. If it was a normal army, they would have long collapsed. They would have exploded the camp and fled without a trace. However, these barbarian army that had been controlled had completely turned into walking corpses. They still walked forward numbly. Just like that, section after section of the ground had completely turned into hell on earth. Boom, 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 boom. Later, many of Cloud Sky City's cannons were already bombarding the ground. In this deafening and earth-shattering massacre, time passed minute by minute. 15 minutes. 30 minutes. Half an hour. 2 hours. That's right. The demon army had walked for 2 hours and still couldn't reach this short distance of 3 miles. This was because there was a death zone. Everyone who passed by would basically die. Also, the ruins of the large crystal crossbows and the large trebuchets made it difficult for the army to move forward. However, these walking corpses still walked and crawled numbly. Then, they were even more numb as they were crazily massacred. Tens of thousands were killed. Hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And there was still an astronomical number of demon army that came a few hundred meters below Cloud Sky City. That's right. Yang Dingtian's cannons were heaven-defying. It was a completely one-sided massacre. However, there were too many Evil Way's army. There were a total of more than 600,000. Although Cloud Sky City's cannons were carpet bombing, there were still fish that escaped the net. Hundreds of thousands of cannons could only kill 300,000 to 400,000. There were still hundreds of thousands of demon army that came to Cloud Sky City and arrived in front of the moat. Of course, this was also Chin-Chi-Chi's goal. She wanted to use lives and corpses to reach Cloud Sky City. Looking at the hundreds of thousands of demon army that was already very close, Yang Dingtian smiled coldly and said, "What's the use of this?" Then, Yang Dingtian ordered loudly, "Change to scatter bullets." Yes. Then, all the cannons were changed to scatter bullets. The lethality of the scatter bullets was even more astonishing than the blossom bullets. It was a massacre without any blind spots. However, because the firing distance was too close, they had to wait until the enemy was close.
Boom.
2,000 cannons instantly fired. Countless people only felt that their eyes were dazzled. Then, countless sharp scatter bullets, millions of particles, were like a storm. No, they were even denser than a storm. They fiercely smashed into the demon army a few hundred meters away. Whoosh! Countless blood spurted out. The scatter bullets directly pierced through the armor and shot directly into the barbarian army's body. In an instant, a person was completely smashed into pieces. Countless demon army were like wheat being harvested. The entire wheat field fell in an instant. Fire.
Boom.
Millions of scatter bullets, like a rainstorm, smashed fiercely. Then, like wheat, a piece of it fell.
Boom. Boom.
Boom. The rain of scatter bullets only fell less than a dozen times. Then, in front of Cloud Sky City, it was completely empty. Just now, using the blossom bullets to kill the demon army in the distance took a full 2 hours. It consumed 200,000 cannons and only killed 300,000 to 400,000. And after the 100,000 to 200,000 demon army approached the city wall, they used scatter bullets. In just over a dozen waves, in just over a quarter of an hour, these 100 to 200,000 people were all killed without exception. There was one advantage to being killed by the scatter bullets. That was, they would not be blown to pieces and their corpses were relatively intact. Therefore, a few hundred meters in front of Cloud Sky City, countless corpses piled up into a small mountain. Just like that, after less than 4 hours of bombardment, the Evil Dao's 600,000-strong army was completely annihilated, cleanly massacred. Yang Dingtian looked at the ground that stretched for dozens of miles in front of him. It was densely covered in blood and corpses. Of course, he didn't feel guilty. He just felt a sense of absurdity. Of course, he had thought of this result. However, this was too simple. Even on Earth, it was not so easy to use 2,000 cannons to kill 600,000 pigs. At least pigs knew how to run. And these demon army formed by the barbarian mercenaries were injected with drugs and used evil techniques. They would not run. They would only numbly advance, advance, and advance. Of course, there were some that escaped. It could be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. There were also countless beast riders that fled frantically under the massacre of the cannons. But at least on the battlefield, only Qin Shi Chi's moving palace stood alone in a pool of blood. At this moment, the sky was already dark. However, the moon was very round. Cloud Sky City released tens of thousands of lights in the sky to illuminate the entire battlefield. All of a sudden, the bloody battlefield was filled with an unpleasant smell and a deathly silence. The cavalry of the Eastern Army walked and stopped. They were about 30 miles away from the battlefield of Cloud Sky City. Wu Maji, who was beside Qiu Wanjie, had already disappeared without a trace. "Manor Lord, what should we do?" his confidant whispered. The previous 4 hours were a complete baptism of Qiu Wanjie's soul. The 2,000 cannons slaughtered the 600,000 demon army cleanly. It made his brain explode. The scene in front of him had an unprecedented impact on his thoughts. Then, he floated in the air in shock and watched the unprecedented massacre. Watched the earth-shattering flames. Watched countless corpses and bones fly. Actually, when Yongding Tian's cannons were firing crazily, the cavalry of the Eastern Army could not possibly charge towards Cloud Sky City. All the war horses had lost control and were trying to escape with all their might. The riders on the horses had to use all their strength to barely control them. They had to stay on the spot and try their best to pacify them so that they could advance.
It was impossible for them to die.
Just like that, Qiu Wanjie floated in the air and watched in a daze for 4 hours. It was like a young man on Earth watching an American movie for the first time. He was completely shocked. Even after the bombardment ended for a long time, he still could not react. His confidant nudged him gently and said, "Manor Lord, what should we do?" Also, Wu Maji has already escaped. Only then did Qiu Wanjie wake up and said to his confidant, "Say, if there are tens of thousands of these metal pipes, how many of them will there be? Will we be able to fight the tens of millions of World Extermination Army?" "Of course, we will be able to fight them," his confidant said. One must know that he had just been baptized by this huge scene and his blood was boiling. "Since we will be able to fight them, then let's just surrender." "Evil ways!" Qiu Wanjie shouted angrily. Qin Wanqiu was also shocked in the air. After the bombardment ended, the hundreds of thousands demon army was wiped out. Qin Wanqiu scolded, "Yongding Tian, you son of a bitch. Are you trying to embarrass me?" Just at this moment, his cousin, Qin City's chief steward, stepped forward and said, "Sect Master, there are tens of thousands of soldiers from the Middle Province Expeditionary Army and the barbarian race's beast cavalry that have escaped. They are escaping towards us. What should we do?" Qin Wanqiu immediately wanted to give the order to kill these escaping demons. But after a slight hesitation, he said, "Forget it. Let them pass." "Yes," the chief steward said. Immediately after, he exclaimed, "Sect Master, Yongding Tian is aiming those metal pipes at us." Qin Wanqiu took a look. Indeed, on Cloud Sky City's city walls, there were at least half of the metal pipes aimed at them. Qin Wanqiu was shocked and said, "I don't believe that son of a bitch can shoot so far." The chief steward said, "Maybe he can. Look at the words metal pipe. The higher it is, the further it can shoot." "But what does he mean by that?" "What does he mean? He is forcing me to choose a side." Qin Wanqiu said, "I don't believe that he really dares to hit me." Just at this moment, Qin Wanqiu saw that the one flying in the air with the command flag was actually Qin Huaiyu. As long as he lowered the flag, the thousands of cannons would shoot towards Qin Wanqiu's cavalry. Of course, Cloud Sky City's cannons were much stronger than those of China's ancient times. But at this distance, it was still very difficult to hit them. Even if they could hit them, they wouldn't be very accurate. Therefore, to eliminate the army of evil ways, they would rather wait until they were 3 to 4 miles away. But Qin Wanchou had never heard of such a weapon, nor had he seen it before. Of course, he didn't know that it couldn't shoot that far. Son of a bitch, the son is beating the father. Qin Wanchou said angrily, order the cavalry to kill the evil ways deserters.
Yes.
Qin City's chief steward said loudly, Qin City cavalry, listen to my order. Kill the deserters. Yes. Instantly, hundreds of thousands of Western Legion cavalry started to move. They crazily chased after the tens of thousands of Evil Ways soldiers and ownerless beast cavalry. The same thing happened to Qiu Wanjie's Eastern Legion cavalry. Similarly, the son was beating the father. The 1,000 cannons on the east side also aimed at the Eastern Legion cavalry. In the air, the one waving the command flag was Qiu Wanjie's son, Qiu Yiming. After Qiu Wanjie scolded his son for beating the father, he also started to order his cavalry to kill the tens of thousands of Evil Ways deserters. Just like that, Qin Wanchou and Qiu Wanjie, who had been watching the battle for half a day, were forced to make a choice by their son. They used a different method to break up with Qin Chichi on the battlefield. Just like that, without any discussion, they directly turned against each other. Anyway, the skin of these big shots was extraordinarily thick. A few hundred miles in front of Cloud Heaven City, there was still a lonely moving palace. Qin Chichi's graceful and alluring body stood outside, looking up at the moon in the sky. She didn't move for a long time.
Cold.
This is the biggest setback in my life. Perhaps it is also the biggest setback in the Evil Ways. Qin Chichi said indifferently, ever since I entered Qin City as a sentinel, I have been able to call the wind and summon the rain. After the yin-yang mirror incident, my power reached its peak. Even Zhu Qingzhu has to lower his head in front of me. Sanction Cloud Heaven City. The Tiando League decided to form an army of 1 million to suppress Cloud Heaven City, forcing all the powers in the world to choose a side. All of this was a strategy that I had devised. Just a day ago, I was still incomparably glorious. I stood at the peak of the world, and the fate of hundreds of millions of people in the western region of the world was in my hands. But now, I have suffered a crushing defeat. I have lost to Yongding Tian, whom I have never even looked at. Cloud Heaven City should have been unable to withstand a single blow. I only needed to use 1/10 of my strength to easily crush it. But the one who was completely annihilated was me. Aunt Lung, I am finished. I am completely finished. Lung Yanmei said fiercely. No, miss, we are not finished yet. We will still win. We still have a real trump card. Cloud Heaven City will still be crushed. No, Aunt Lung, you don't understand. Qin Chichi said, that is not my trump card. That is the Ning clan's trump card. That is Ning Wuming's trump card. My trump card is the 600,000 soldiers, the giant crystal crossbows, the giant trebuchets, and the 25,000 soldiers of the Demon Wolf Legion.
These are all finished.
Now, even if we win, it has nothing to do with me. This war is not only a war between me and Yang Dingtian. It is also a war between me and Ning Wuming. If I win, the western region of the world will belong to me. Now that I have lost, I have nothing left. Then, my only identity can only be Ning Wuming's wife. Maybe I can't even be considered a wife. Concubine? In short, I am finished. Now, it is the war between Ning Wuming and Yang Dingtian. Everything has nothing to do with me. At this moment, a strange cry suddenly came from afar. Then, a flying mount that looked like a willow, the wisp appeared from the distant horizon. It covered the bright moon in the sky and approached from afar. It was the spirit ghost bat. The handsome Ning Wuming sat on the spirit ghost bat and descended from the sky. What followed was an extremely cold and gloomy aura. The spirit ghost bat's huge wings covered the bright full moon and left a huge shadow on the ground. It was as if a demon had descended to the world. Ning Wuming gently landed on the moving palace. Qin Chichi gently went into his embrace and sobbed softly, "Husband, I have lost." Ning Wuming gently said, Don't worry. Watch me vent your anger for you. Then, Ning Wuming lightly said to the air beside him, mobilize the blood pupil demonic army and slaughter Cloud Sky City. Suddenly, the dark air around him gradually condensed into a pale spirit ghost bird and flew into the darkness behind him. After a while, the ground dozens of miles behind the moving palace suddenly cracked open. One by one, the black blood pupil demonic army crawled out from the ground. Their bodies were still spotless. They crawled out silently. Of course, they were not ghouls. They had been lying in ambush here during the war. They were waiting for Qin Chi-Chi's complete defeat. Just as Qin Chi-Chi had said, this war was not only a war between the evil ways and Yang Dingtian. It was also a war between Qin Chi-Chi and Ning Wuming. Now, Ning Wuming's wish was fulfilled. Qin Chi-Chi had been defeated. Then, it was time for him to turn the tide. One by one, the blood pupil demonic army crawled out from the ground and gathered on the ground. Each of them was directly floating in the air. Their entire bodies were covered by black cloaks. At a glance, only blood-red pupils could be seen. In the dark night, only pairs of terrifying blood-red pupils could be seen emitting a demonic light. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. A total of 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. In the southwest battlefield, only 3,000 blood pupil demonic army had been deployed and destroyed hundreds of thousands of troops. Moreover, there were no casualties at all. At this time, Ning Wuming had deployed 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. Of course, there was only one goal, which was to wipe out Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian had been waiting for the appearance of the blood pupil demonic army, because he knew that the appearance of the blood pupil demonic army was the real decisive battle. The blood pupil demonic army was the real trump card of the evil demon army. It was more than the demon wolf army, the golden eagle army, and the 600,000 evil demon army combined. However, the blood pupil demonic army did not appear for an entire day of battle. Now they finally appeared. However, the number was much more than Yang Dingtian had imagined. In the distant darkness, tens of thousands of black blood-red pupils floated over like ghost flames. That's right, they floated over directly. Suddenly, it was as if tens of thousands of ghosts had surrounded the city. On Cloud Sky City's city walls, everyone's hair stood on end, their entire body ice-cold. Yang Dingtian looked at the people around him and said, "The real decisive battle is here." Qin Huayu's face turned green as he nodded his head. Zhu Hongxue sucked in a breath and said, "Are we prepared? This blood pupil demonic army looks very terrifying." Even the arrogant and conceited Zhu Hongxue had said such words. Chapter 487. Yang Dingtian knew very little about the blood pupil demonic army. He only knew that this army was the trump card of the South Sea Ning tribe. In other words, it was the army of the evil ways that truly belonged to the evil ways, and not the mercenaries. He completely treated this army as his final opponent, his biggest opponent. All the information about the blood pupil demonic army came from the Jiao Liao's report to Yang Dingtian. This army was like an undead army that was fearless. The weapons in their hands were invincible. Every one of them had a cultivation higher than a high-grade martial mystic. Every one of them could release mystic skills. At the southwest battlefield, the 3,000 blood pupil demonic army had wiped out the 100,000 Southwest Alliance army led by Duan Rian. Yang Dingtian originally thought that the South Sea Ning tribe would be amazing if they had a few thousand of them. Who knew that there were 30,000 of them in front of him? 3,000 of them could easily wipe out 100,000 soldiers. Then, how many enemies could the 30,000 demonic army eliminate? At this moment, there was a bright moon in the sky and a few thousand lamps. Hence, the ground could still be seen. But the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army devoured all the light wherever they went. The surroundings were completely dark. All that could be seen were 30,000 pairs of eyes that were like will-o-the-wisps. Anyone would shudder at the sight of 30,000 pairs of willow, the wisps floating over. Just like how no one had seen Yang Dingtian's cannon before, no one in the Cloud Heaven City understood the Blood Pupil Devil Army in front of them. It was a complete mystery. The unknown was the scariest thing. The 30,000 Blood Pupil Demonic Army flew towards Cloud Sky City. The countless corpses on the ground didn't obstruct them at all. It was as silent as a ghost. Instantly, the entire battlefield became extremely strange. The army on top of Cloud Sky City almost couldn't breathe. They were getting closer and closer. At this moment, other than the corpses on the battlefield, there were also tens of thousands of cavalrymen from the East and West armies chasing after the demonic army deserters. At this moment, they accidentally blocked in front of the Blood Pupil Demonic Army. Because they didn't receive any orders from Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie, they were at a loss. The remaining demonic army deserters and beast cavalry were running around like headless flies.
Suddenly,
thousands of blood-eyed demonic army soldiers raised their blood-red scimitars and slashed at the sky. Whoosh! Instantly, thousands of ghostly flames streaked across the sky. The deserters were like headless flies, as well as countless beast riders. In an instant, they were all killed without a sound. Almost at the same time, Yang Dingtian, who was on the Cloud Heaven City's walls, and Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie, who were in the air, all sucked in a cold breath. These deserters and beast riders were scattered all over the place. They weren't gathered together. They were scattered all over the place, fleeing in all directions. However, in the blink of an eye, he was killed by the Blood Pupil Demonic Army. The closest one was a secret, while the furthest one was 100 meters away. They were all killed in an instant. How shocking was this? He could kill without any mistakes from a few hundred meters away? In that case, they didn't even need to reach the city walls. They could just be 100 meters away from the city walls and wipe out the 100,000 soldiers on the city walls. He knew that the Blood Pupil Demonic Army was heaven-defying, but he didn't expect it to be to this extent. It was no wonder that Ning Wuming didn't care about the battle situation at all. He didn't need the million-strong army, the Demon Wolf Demonic Army, or the Golden Eagle Army. The 30,000 blood-eyed demonic army could easily wipe out Cloud Sky City. Seeing this scene, the East and West Army soldiers were scared out of their wits. They no longer cared about the orders from above and hurriedly tried to escape at full speed. However, as the Blood Pupil Demonic Army got closer, they realized that the surrounding air instantly turned cold. The surrounding space turned completely dark. The Blood Pupil Demonic Army not only devoured life, but they also devoured light. The warhorses of the East and West Army soldiers were all trembling. No matter how the soldiers whipped them, they only stood on the ground and trembled. They didn't run at all. Instantly, the East and West Army soldiers hurriedly dismounted and ran for their lives. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The thousands of Blood Pupil Demonic Army soldiers slashed their scimitars across the sky. Another few thousand ghostly flames streaked across the dark sky. In an instant, all the East and West Army soldiers in front of them were wiped out. All the warhorses knelt on the ground, bleeding from their 7 orifices as they died. Everyone on the city wall, including Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie from the East and West Army, were completely stunned. What was there to fight about? Such a heaven-defying Blood Pupil Demonic Army. What was there to fight about? At this moment, the Blood Pupil Demonic Army was still 30 to 40 miles away from Cloud Heaven City. The cannons were still out of reach. The Demon Dragon Army commander went forward and knelt down. City Lord, let the Demon Dragon Army fight. I don't believe that we can't destroy these things that are neither human nor ghost. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, no. The Demon Dragon Army wouldn't be a match for this Blood Pupil Demonic Army. Following which, Yang Dingtian said to Kuei Ning, Demon Vulture Army, get ready. Put on the bombs and launch an air attack on the Blood Pupil Demonic Army.
Yes,
Kuei Ning said. After a while, 1,000 demon vultures soared into the sky. On each demon vulture, there were dozens of bombs. Originally, the air attack was prepared for the demon army. However, when they fought, the cannons were enough and there was no need for air attacks. Therefore, the air attack was left to the heaven-defying blood-pupil demonic army. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 1,000 demon vultures easily flew to a height of 1,000 meters and floated above the blood-pupil demonic army. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless bombs fell from the sky. Looking at the sky, Ning Wuming gently hugged Qin Chi and said, "This Yongding Tian is indeed a rare genius. He has completely changed the way war is fought. Who would have thought that flying mounts could be used like this? Therefore, even if he didn't have those iron pipes, he could still defeat you with the Demon Vulture Army's air attack." Qin Chi's gaze was complicated, but her expression was gentle. She replied gently, "Unfortunately, he met my husband." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless bombs fell on the blood-pupil demonic army's heads. Everyone was excitedly waiting for the countless bombs to explode and blow the blood-pupil demonic army into pieces. However, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army faced the sky and released their Xian skills. 30,000 rays of light suddenly shot into the sky. Puff, 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 puff. In an instant, the cannonballs didn't have time to explode and were instantly cut into pieces by the Xian skills. Countless gunpowder drifted in the air. Kuei-Ning was quick-witted. She immediately shot fire arrows at the gunpowder that filled the sky. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion occurred 100 meters in the air. The flames that soared into the sky instantly ignited a few miles of the sky. The explosion that soared into the sky and the flames that soared into the sky seemed to have ignited the sky in an instant. For a moment, the surrounding dozens of miles were as bright as day. However, before the explosion, all the blood-pupil demonic army, like lightning, quickly jumped a few hundred meters forward. This earth-shattering explosion created a huge wave that only slightly messed up their formation. Did the blood-pupil demonic army suffer any casualties in this air attack? Perhaps, but Yongding Tian didn't see much. Even if there were, it was very sporadic. Mobilizing 1,000 demon vulture army and dropping thousands of bombs only slightly messed up the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. Everyone on the city wall completely sucked in cold air. Even this couldn't destroy the blood-pupil demonic army? Then what should they do? They must not let the blood-pupil demonic army get close. Once they were 100 meters away, then no one could save Cloud Sky City. Even if Yongding Tian had Grandmaster-level experts, he could at most kill a few hundred or 1,000 of them. However, the opponent had a total of 30,000. Yongding Tian couldn't help but be shocked. How did the Southern Seas Ning clan, or Evil Ways, create such an astronomical number of blood-pupil demonic army? These things that were neither human nor ghost, each of them had the cultivation of a high-level martial mystic and above. Each of them could use Xian skills. The most elite part of the Demon Dragon army also had a few hundred people who had reached the martial mystic realm. Of course, they were middle-level martial mystic. However, this kind of collective military martial mystic was different from martial mystic. At least, they couldn't use Xian skills. And these 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army, each of them was a high-level martial mystic. Perhaps all the martial mystic in the entire Western world added together didn't have 30,000. The Southern Seas Ning clan had mobilized 30,000, and all of them were high-level martial mystic. At this moment, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army was already 20 miles away from Cloud Sky City. The cannons were barely enough. Fire! Yongding Tian ordered. Boom, 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 boom. 2,000 cannons fired in unison. 20 miles away. Because they didn't have very professional cannoneers, their accuracy was very poor. Although the formation of the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army was not small, spanning a few miles. However, less than 20% of the 2,000 cannons hit. In other words, only a few hundred cannons hit the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Thousands of blood-pupil demonic army released their Xian skills in unison. In an instant, all the cannons that hit were directly cut through in the air. They were destroyed before they could explode. Only 3 or 4 cannons escaped the net and smashed into the blood-pupil demonic army. Boom, 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 3 or 4 cannons exploded. Everyone gritted their teeth and waited for the results of the battle. Even if only 3 or 4 cannons exploded, the power was incomparably shocking. Flames burst out, and the surrounding dozens of meters suddenly became empty. At least a few hundred of the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army's formation disappeared in an instant. Yang Dingtian and the others were very excited. This kind of result was also good. They could kill a few hundred people from 20 miles away. The closer they were, the more they could only hit. In this way, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army would most likely be dead by the time they got close to the city wall. However, the following scene caused Yang Dingtian to feel a chill all over his body. Because the few hundred blood-pupil demonic army that had been blown away or blown down stood up straight and then continued to float in the air. After being hit by the cannons, they were actually safe and sound. 3 or 4 cannons, perhaps only 20 or 30 people were killed, or even less. Most of them were blown away, but they only suffered light injuries and did not even affect the battle. Yang Dingtian and everyone on the city wall were tongue-tied. What kind of army was this? Even cannons could not kill them? Song Chunhua said, "City Lord, the greatest lethality of our cannons is the shock wave of the explosion and the shrapnel. However, martial Xian experts can use Xian Qi to protect their bodies, so they tightly lock their muscles. Therefore, unless it explodes directly next to them after a certain distance, they will not be killed or even seriously injured." Shimin Lai said, "That's right. We have done experiments. A martial ancestor realm expert will not be killed even if he is only 2 feet away from the bomb." Next, the 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army's heaven-defying performance continued. Yang Dingtian's cannons continued to roar and bombard. The 30,000 blood-pupil demonic army continued to release their Xian skills and shattered most of the cannons from tens of meters away. A small number of cannons smashed into the blood-pupil demonic army's formation. However, most of them still stood up straight, patted the flames on their bodies, and continued to float forward. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian also discovered a heaven-defying aspect of this army. That was, their profound qi seemed to be limitless. A normal martial Xian expert could release Xian skills 4 or 5 times at most before their Xian qi was exhausted. However, this army that was neither human nor ghost continued to release Xian qi. Then, there was only one explanation. This blood-pupil demonic army did not rely on the sea of qi to provide Xian qi. Instead, they relied on other strange things. As expected of the army of evil ways, their entire body was filled with evil. Even the bombardment of 2,000 cannons was completely useless. At this moment, Qin Wanqiu and Qiu Wanjie, who were floating in the east and west, had completely fallen into despair. Qiu Wanjie muttered to himself, "How can this be? Is there really no hope in this world? This is not fair. This is not fair. How can the evil ways possess such power?" The cannons continued to fire. However, the bodies of the cannoneers were getting colder and colder. The bodies of the 100,000 soldiers in Cloud Sky City were also getting colder and colder. As the blood-pupil demonic army rapidly approached, the aura of despair continued to spread. "Sovereign, we have to think of a solution immediately. Once this demonic army gets close, the consequences will be unimaginable," Song Chunhua said. Yang Dingtian slowly closed his eyes and sank into the struggle and torture. To be honest, Yang Dingtian was prepared for the blood-pupil demonic army. Even before the war started, Yang Dingtian had already treated the blood-pupil demonic army as his biggest opponent. However, he thought that the 2,000 cannons and countless cannons would be able to defeat them. Who knew that it would not be possible? Of course, he was still prepared. It could be said that this was Yang Dingtian's final trump card. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he was not willing to use this trump card at all. Because once this trump card was used, the consequences would be unimaginable. It could be said that the land in front of Cloud Sky City was basically completely destroyed and turned into a land of death. As for whether it would affect the ordinary citizens of Cloud Sky City, Yang Dingtian did not know. He did not dare to guarantee it. If it would affect them, the consequences for the citizens of Cloud Sky City would be devastating. At this moment, the Blood Pupil demonic army was constantly approaching. The countless cannons had caused the Blood Pupil demonic army to lose less than 1,000 men. Once they got close to the city walls, the 30,000 Blood Pupil demonic army would only need 2 minutes to kill the hundreds of thousands of soldiers above. It could be said that once the Blood Pupil demonic army got close to the city walls, Cloud Sky City would be completely finished. Yang Dingtian would be completely defeated. Of course, he, Qin Huayu, and Zhu Hongxue could still survive. However, if they could not protect the millions of soldiers and civilians of Cloud Sky City, then what was the point of their existence? Ning Wuming squinted his eyes and looked at Yang Dingtian, who was on the city walls. He could clearly see Yang Dingtian's painful expression.
Yang Dingtian is finished.
Cloud Sky City is finished, Ning Wuming said calmly. Ning Wuming said indifferently, history will remember today. Tonight is the beginning of the evil Dao's world domination. After saying that, Ning Wuming waved his hand. In an instant, more than 10 black figures flew over from the sky. They did not ride on flying mounts and relied on their own cultivation to fly. 15 purple-robed men silently floated behind Ning Wuming. Grandmaster, 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 15 Grandmasters. 15 purple-robed Grandmasters from the Ning tribe of the South Sea. Ning Wuming said gently to Qin Chichi, "Baby, it's your turn." Qin Chichi smiled gently and clapped her hands. "Grandpa, come out."
Bang!
One person stood up in the moving palace. A huge boom rang out as the enormous moving palace, as well as all the gold and metal in it, was instantly blasted into smithereens. A giant covered in black armor slowly walked over step by step and stood behind Qin Chichi. Suddenly, a surge of murderous aura that shook heaven and earth shot into the sky. Wherever his feet passed, the ground cracked inch by inch. Even Cloud Sky City, which was dozens of miles away, could feel this aura clearly. Grandmaster, Grandmaster. Only a Grandmaster could have such a powerful aura. Behind the giant, 2 black-robed men floated in the air. These 2 men were Qin Chichi's personal bodyguards and were Grandmaster-level powerhouses. And this giant, his eyes were bloodthirsty and lifeless, like a walking corpse. This person was Qin City's Grandmaster-level puppet. And Qin Chichi actually called him Grandpa. Then who was he? Because even Qin Huayu did not know about this Grandmaster-level puppet. Who was he? He was Qin Wancho's father. Qin Wancho killed his own father and then refined him into a war demon puppet. Under the protection of 18 Grandmaster-level powerhouses, Ning Wuming pulled out his sword and stabbed it into the air. Blood Pupil demonic army, full speed ahead. Slaughter millions of Cloud Sky City. Suddenly, close to 30,000 Blood Pupil demonic army sped up and flew towards Cloud Sky City like lightning. Like 30,000 will-o'-the-wisps, they flew ferociously. At the same time, under the leadership of the Grandmaster-level war demon puppet, 15 purple-robed Grandmasters, 2 black-robed Grandmasters, and the cold-looking Grandmaster rushed towards Cloud Sky City like a black shadow with a destructive aura. Ning Wuming said indifferently, "The final battle, the final massacre, has begun." Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, "The final battle, the final massacre, has begun." Yang Dingtian came to a door behind the city wall and pulled it open. Suddenly, a coffin was revealed. He pulled open the coffin lid. Instantly, an incomparably powerful energy pierced through the sky. Inside, an old man was lying quietly. He suddenly opened his eyes. A Grandmaster-level powerhouse was also a Grandmaster who could destroy heaven and earth. 100,000 troops, change into biochemical arrows. Suddenly, the 100,000 troops took out a box from their backs and carefully took out special sharp swords from it. all cannons, and also biochemical shells. In an instant, all the cannoneers stuffed the strange green shells into the barrels of the cannons. Demon Eagle Army, bring the biochemical shells and air raid the blood-pupil demonic army.
Yes.
8,000 Demon Eagle Army soldiers held huge green jade balls and flew into the sky. Yang Dingtian suddenly raised his sword and roared, "The final battle has begun. The final massacre has begun. Evil ways, exterminate all." Chapter 488. What was a biochemical weapon? This was probably the only thing Yang Dingtian had done that made his conscience uneasy after coming to the chaotic world. It was also something that went against the nature of justice. In fact, it was completely unintentional for Yang Dingtian to create such a terrifying thing. Yang Dingtian was a good student and a good science student, so he got into the best university in China. However, his university major had nothing to do with biology or chemistry. Therefore, there was not much knowledge left in high school chemistry. With his knowledge, it was impossible for him to create any biochemical weapon. When he was sure that Qin Chi's army would attack Cloud Sky City, he had been thinking about using Earth's civilization to create all kinds of weapons. First, of course, were cannons and gunpowder. Secondly, there were many, many ideas. For example, when he was faced with sulfur, he naturally thought of sulfuric acid. The warriors in this world might be able to withstand the impact of gunpowder explosion, but highly concentrated sulfuric acid should not be able to withstand it. Later, Yang Dingtian used the pitiful remaining knowledge of chemistry in his brain and failed countless times before he finally created sulfuric acid. And it was sulfuric acid that was full of impurities. After distillation and extraction, it was indeed powerful. Of course, he knew that there were stronger acids, but he really could not think of how to make them. This sulfuric acid was made after many failures. Later, when he took the sulfuric acid to an alchemist and prepared to make a large number of copies, the alchemist did not say anything. The alchemist didn't say anything. He directly took out a bottle. Inside it was a transparent, slightly blue liquid. He poured a drop on a thick steel plate. Then, a huge hole was burned through the 2-inch steel plate. Its power was much stronger than the sulfuric acid that Yang Dingtian had made. Therefore, Yang Dingtian's knowledge of chemistry was mocked in the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian asked, "What is this? Can it be made in large quantities?" The alchemist said that this was the gastric juice of the gold-corroding demonic dragon. In fact, most gold-eating beasts had terrifying gastric acid that could quickly melt metals. It could be said that even low-level gold-eating beasts' gastric acid was stronger than the sulfuric acid that Yang Dingtian had made. The only drawback was that these beasts' acid could not be made in large quantities, so there was only a small amount. It was absolutely impossible for them to be used in a large-scale war. Thus, Yang Dingtian's biochemical path failed for the first time. However, he still gave the order to hunt the gold-eating beasts in the eastern training ground. There were countless gold-eating beasts there. After killing the gold-eating beast, he took out all of its gastric juices. After this order was given, Yang Dingtian left Cloud Sky City to handle some matters. By the time he returned, it had already been nearly a month. In Cloud Heaven City, they had hunted and killed tens of thousands of gold-eating beasts. In the end, the stomach acid he obtained only added up to about 500 kilograms. Of course, an average gold-eating beast's stomach acid wasn't that much, but it wasn't concentrated enough and needed to be purified. Therefore, from 10,000 caddies of gastric acid, he could only extract 1,000 caddies. As one of Cloud Sky City's secret substances, Yang Dingtian was the first to receive a report on the 500 kilograms of strong acid. At that time, Yang Dingtian's focus was on the cannons and explosives, so he did not pay much attention to it. Furthermore, he was facing the yin-yang mirror incident at that time, and his mind was in a complete mess. After that, he brought Qin Huayu to the Sky Demon City to prepare for the marriage with the World Society. Then he went to the Demon Territory. The changes in the situation were made known when he returned from the Demon Territory. From Jiao Liao, he received information about the blood pupil demonic army. Every one of them was a high-level profound martial artist. 3,000 blood pupil demonic army slaughtered 100,000 soldiers of the Southwest Alliance Army led by Duan Ruyan without suffering any losses. At that time, Qin Shichi's crusade had already risen to a strategic level, to the level of a million-strong army. Therefore, Yang Dingtian paid unprecedented attention to the blood pupil demonic army. He also firmly believed that the blood pupil demonic army of the South Xining clan was the trump card of this crusade against evil ways. They were the most deadly opponent to Cloud Sky City. Perhaps the cannons were not enough to kill this crazy army. Therefore, the biological weapon from before once again entered Yang Dingtian's mind and plan. However, the sulfuric acid he made was too weak. The amount of strong acid extracted from the gold-eating beasts was too little. 500 kilograms might not be enough. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had an idea. What would the result be if he combined the strong acid of the gold-eating beasts with sulfuric acid? Therefore, the alchemist began the experiment. The result was not bad. The combination of 500 kilograms of gold-eating beasts acid and 500 kilograms of sulfuric acid could reach 70% of the gold-eating beasts acid, which was several times stronger than concentrated sulfuric acid. Therefore, Yang Dingtian ordered a large-scale production of concentrated sulfuric acid. Then, he mixed 500 kilograms of gold-eating beasts acid with 10,000 kilograms of sulfuric acid. The result was that the new product had 85% of the gold-eating beast's acid's power. This made Yang Dingtian very surprised and puzzled. A ratio of 1. One only had 70% of the gold-eating beast's acid's power. A ratio of 1:10 meant that the gold-eating beast's acid was diluted greatly, but it became 85% of its power. This made the alchemist exclaim in disbelief. Moreover, he named this new product Demon Water. Later, Yang Dingtian and the alchemist discussed the effect of using the demon water on martial mystic realm warriors. The result was that it was ineffective. This was because martial mystic realm warriors already had Xian Qi shield all over their bodies, which could prevent any liquid from splashing onto their bodies. Yang Dingtian even used the enemy's martial mystic realm spies as an experiment. He directly smeared the demon water, which was many times more corrosive than sulfuric acid, on the martial mystic realm captives. The result was also disappointing. At first, there was a corrosive effect. But very quickly, the warriors' Xian Qi directly forced the demon water out of their bodies. The higher the cultivation, the faster it was forced out. Therefore, even if the demon water splashed onto a high-level martial mystic, it could only cause superficial damage. The warrior would use Xian Qi to quickly force it out. Therefore, the alchemist suggested that they must add an ingredient that could corrode Xian Qi. This way, not only could the demon water easily splash onto a martial mystic realm warrior's body, but it could also directly corrode Xian Qi, allowing the demon water to use the fastest speed to instantly burn through the martial mystic realm warrior's body, which was fatal in a short time. However, dozens of alchemists experimented for several days and nights, adding countless poisons, but all failed. Later, Yang Dingtian thought of something. The world's #1 poison, deep-sea Xian poison. This poison was irresistible and could even corrode Xian Qi. However, Yang Dingtian no longer had any deep-sea Xian poison at this time, not even a little bit. But he knew of a place that had it. It was the place where Poison Hand's devil was buried. It was the swamp where he was buried. At that time, Yang Dingtian had a request for Poison Hand's devil, so he gave him 2 types of poisons. One was the blood of the deep-sea Xian poison that he obtained from Shiman Ningning. The other was the blood of Shiman Wuya that was contaminated by soul-devouring Xian Qi. Not long after Poison Hand's devil obtained these 2 types of strange poisons, he was indiscriminately killed by Dugufengwu. However, the deep-sea Xian poison should still be in that swamp of his. Therefore, Yang Dingtian made the best use of his time and flew to the center of the swamp where Poison Hand's devil died. In that incomparably disgusting, hell-like place, Yang Dingtian found countless things, including a tube of deep-sea Xian poison and a tube of soul-devouring blood. Then, he used his fastest speed to return to Cloud Heaven City and handed the deep-sea Xian poison to the alchemists. At that time, all the alchemists were completely shocked. They held their breaths as if they were on a pilgrimage, looking at the number one poison in the world, the deep-sea Xian poison obtained from the Naga race. As long as the deep-sea Xian poison was placed in demonic water, it could corrode mystic qi. Martial mystic experts would not be able to resist it. The only problem was that the amount of deep-sea Xian poison was too little, not even half a tael. There were more than 5,000 kilograms of demonic water, so half a tael was useless. Later on, an alchemist suggested a hair-raising method, which was to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison. This was because the deep-sea Xian poison was actually a living life force that could be cultivated. How was it cultivated? Using living people to cultivate. If the deep-sea Xian poison was injected into a person's bloodline, the deep-sea Xian poison would crazily devour and spread. Finally, it would turn all the blood in the person's body into the deep-sea Xian poison. This was something that had happened before. At that time, Shima Ningning had only injected her mental energy and mystic qi into the deep-sea Xian poison. As a result, her body was contaminated with a little bit of the deep-sea Xian poison. Not long after, the deep-sea Xian poison spread throughout her body and her entire body turned green. Later on, when Yang Dingtian was seriously injured by Shimanju, she suddenly erupted and released the deep-sea Xian poison, instantly killing thousands of people. Then, she disappeared without a trace. From this, it could be seen that the deep-sea Xian poison had indeed grown in his body. The deep-sea Xian poison that was originally less than 1/10,000th of its original size grew incomparably strong and instantly killed thousands of people. However, using living people to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison was undoubtedly extremely cruel and extremely evil. It could be said that it was no different from evil ways. Yang Dingtian hesitated for a very long time, but in the end, he made up his mind to use living people to cultivate the deep-sea Xian poison. As a result, dozens of evil ways spies became the cultivation base of the deep-sea Xian poison. This deep-sea Xian poison was incomparably tyrannical. After less than half a tael of deep-sea Xian poison was injected into the blood vessels of dozens of people. In just a few days, these dozens of people had all turned into poison people. They had become neither human nor ghost. They could not die at all, nor could they live. Moreover, even the air they breathed was filled with poison. In the end, Yang Dingtian personally drained their blood to extract the poison. 35 people took a total of 50 kilograms of mutated deep-sea Xian poison. In the end, Yang Dingtian injected the 50 kilograms of deep-sea Xian poison into more than 10,000 kilograms of demonic water. In an instant, the transparent demonic water turned into a terrifying green color. In this way, Yang Dingtian's biochemical weapon was born. Using 10,000 kilograms of high-concentration sulfuric acid, 1,000 kilograms of metal-eating beast acid, and 50 kilograms of mutated deep-sea Xian poison cultivated from living people, it was mixed into an extremely terrifying and evil biochemical weapon. Yang Dingtian named it Evil Demon's Blood. Then, Yang Dingtian did an experiment. He dipped an arrow in the evil demon's blood and had 10 ordinary warriors shoot it at the martial mystic level captive. As a result, the martial mystic level warrior used his weapon to cut down 5 poison arrows and used his mystic skill to blast away 3. He tried to use mystic qi to attack the remaining 2 arrows. As a result, the poison arrow directly corroded the mystic qi and shot into the flesh without any hindrance. Then, a hellish scene happened. Yang Dingtian still felt his hair stand on end when he recalled this scene. The martial mystic level warrior's body turned green in an instant. Then, at a speed visible to the naked eye, his entire body melted and was instantly corroded. In just a few seconds, his entire body turned into a pile of disgusting meat paste. The might of this evil devil's blood was much greater than what Yang Dingtian had imagined, and it was also much more evil. Therefore, this biochemical weapon, although it had nothing to do with biology or chemistry, most of it came from this world's deep-sea Xian poison and metal-eating beast acid. However, under Yang Dingtian's lead and conception, it appeared. Although Yang Dingtian had created countless evil demons' blood weapons, he had ordered them to be sealed up immediately. Once this thing spread, the consequences would be fatal. Even Yang Dingtian wasn't sure if using this weapon to kill enemies on a large scale would have fatal consequences for Cloud Sky City. Unless it was a last resort, Yang Dingtian definitely did not want to use this thing. This thing was 10 times, 100 times more terrifying than cannons and gunpowder. However, Yang Dingtian had no other choice now. Without using the evil demon's blood, Cloud Sky City would face destruction. There was no way, and no one, that could resist the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. As long as they were within 100 meters of Cloud Sky City, the 100,000 people on the city wall would be killed instantly. Yang Dingtian had no other choice. 100,000 archers, get ready. Yang Dingtian roared crazily. Immediately, all the troops on the city wall changed to the terrifying evil demon's blood arrows. They drew their bows and aimed at the blood pupil demonic army that was flying over quickly. Demon Eagle Army, get ready. Immediately, 1,000 Demon Eagle Army soldiers flew above the blood pupil demonic army with evil demon's blood bombs. All cannons, get ready. Immediately, all the cannons were changed to evil demon's blood bombs. The final battle has begun. Evil ways are exterminated.
Fire.
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 Yang Dingtian roared as if he had fallen into hell. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 100,000 evil demon blood arrows shot out like raindrops. They were like a black cloud as they smashed towards the 35,000 blood pupil devil army. 2,000 cannons roared, and 2,000 evil demons' blood bombs flew towards the blood pupil demonic army. The Demon Eagle army threw down the huge evil demons' blood bombs. Immediately, in the dark night, under the moonlight, countless green bombs rained down like a rainstorm. 2,000 bombs flew past the green bombs and flew towards the blood pupil demonic army. 1,000 huge green cannonballs suddenly fell from the sky. Immediately, Ning Wuming, who was far away, sneered. The 30,000 blood pupil demonic army's blood-red eyes were filled with disdain and sarcasm. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 30,000 Xian skill flames suddenly shot out. Some went to destroy the bombs from the cannons. Some went to destroy the huge bombs that fell from the sky. As for the 100,000 arrows? Are you kidding? They were not even crystal arrows. There was no need to defend at all. They could just let them shoot at them. The clothes of the Blood-Eye demonic army were all made of heavenly silkworm demonic silk and other dark materials. Mere arrows could not damage them at all. They still succeeded. 2,000 bombs were shattered by the Xian skill when they were still tens of meters away. The bombs that fell from the sky were also shattered. But the strange thing was that these bombs did not explode into flames. Instead, they exploded into countless green liquids. Then something even stranger happened. 100,000 arrows, because they did not care, did not stop them. It shot straight into their formation. 100,000 arrows rained down like a torrential downpour, hitting almost everyone. They did not care at all, and let the arrows hit their bodies. Because these arrows could not penetrate their cloaks, not even a strand of hair. But these arrows easily tore open the indestructible Xian demon cloaks and pierced into their flesh. The blood pupil demonic army paused for a moment and then released their Xian qi to force the arrows out. But a terrifying power, a demonic power, instantly tore their Xian meridians and corroded their Xian qi. Then, a terrifying cloud of smoke suddenly emitted from their bodies. Their bodies, their Xian qi, their souls. In an instant, they melted and disappeared. Then they did not know anything. Even if they were not hit by the poisonous arrows, they quickly melted and disappeared after being splashed by the terrifying green liquid. Everyone on the city wall, as well as the dozen or so grandmasters behind them, also saw this horrifying and hair-raising scene. 100,000 arrows smashed into the 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. The 30,000 blood pupil demonic army suddenly stopped advancing. Immediately after, a cloud of white smoke suddenly emerged. A huge hole suddenly appeared in the bodies of the countless blood-eyed demonic army soldiers. Their internal organs could be seen clearly. The internal organs of the blood pupil demonic army were not bright red, but a demonic blue. But this was not important. All the blood pupil demonic army melted and dissolved. Bang, 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 without a sound, the blood pupil demonic army that was floating in the air suddenly fell and knelt on the ground. Countless pairs of eyes that were like ghost flames were extinguished. Then, their entire bodies disappeared without a trace and turned into a pile of mud. Only 30,000 broken cloaks were left on the ground. After a while, even the broken cloaks disappeared without a trace. Just like that, under everyone's fearful and trembling gazes, the heaven-defying, invincible 30,000 blood pupil demonic army disappeared from the face of the earth. Ning Wuming's body started to tremble and tremble. He was always gentle, refined, and carefree. But at this moment, his eyes were trembling. How? How was this possible? Was this a deep nightmare? The 30,000 invincible blood pupil demonic army disappeared in an instant. They died more mysteriously and completely than the Demon Wolf Army and the Golden Eagle Army. Qiu Wanjie and Qin Wanqiu, who were far away, were completely stunned. They looked at Yang Dingtian with a strange and even fearful gaze. Who is the evil ways? Yang Dingtian was on the city wall and knelt down slowly towards the sky. Today's killings, the evil killings, are all my sins alone. I hope that if the heavens want to vent their anger, they will vent their anger on Yang Dingtian alone. Today's evil killings are very painful for me, but I will definitely not regret it. Maybe in the future, I will repent for today's sins, but that will be a time of peace. At this moment, I only have endless killings. After speaking, Yang Dingtian stood up and slowly pulled out his emperor-grade soul sword. He walked in front of the revived Dongfang Minmi and said softly, "Master, let's fight together today." "All right, let us fight together today. Today, let us create history here." Yang Dingtian looked at Song Chunhua, Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue, and even Yao Rao. He didn't know when she had arrived. "Everyone, my brothers, my sisters, my lovers."
Kill.
Yang Dingtian ordered. 1 martial grandmaster and 5 martial grandmasters, or close to martial grandmasters, rushed out of the city wall and towards the battlefield outside. The martial grandmaster puppet led more than 10 martial grandmasters of evil ways. Their eyes were blazing with fire as they charged forward crazily. The final battle had finally arrived. Martial grandmasters against martial grandmasters. Martial grandmasters against martial grandmasters. 1 martial grandmaster against another martial grandmaster. 5 martial grandmasters, close to martial grandmasters, against more than 10 martial grandmasters. The final battle, the final massacre. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.